How are you, sir?
Yeah, I know. I had to park down by the police station myself. Alright, now I've got it. At the last meeting, we had to move to the other room, or was that it?
No, the other room's occupied. Just, Paul's gonna come down in a minute, see if he can sort out what's going on.
We can hear you and see you.
Oh, you can hear us and see us.
Yep.
All right.
All right, let's do a check. Andreas, can you hear us? Can't hear you.
He was muted.
Hello, can you hear me?
Okay, barely.
Yes.
Alan, can you hear us?
Yes, Jeff, I can hear you clear.
All right, if everybody can hear us.
Okay. We appear to be good to go. All right, I'm going to call the meeting to order, Town of Newington Conservation Commission for September 16, 2025. Would the recording secretary please take the roll call?
Yes, Commissioner Anderson,
Here.
Commissioner Bashand,
Here.
Commissioner Conway,
Here.
Commissioner Ellis,
Here.
Commissioner Morris, Commissioner Ostrowski,
Here.
Commissioner Morris is here.
Okay, thank you. Commissioner Strinsky?
Here.
Commissioner Paskowitch?
Here.
Commissioner Sadil?
Here.
Commissioner Wimet?
Here.
Chairman Zelik?
Here. Okay, we have a full commission this evening, so I'm not going to seat any of the alternates. We're going to move on to acceptance of minutes, approval of minutes from the August 19th, 2025 meeting. Any changes, amendments, any of the commissioners would like to make?
Yes, Commissioner Pasquich here.
Go ahead,
Chairman.
Commissioner Paskowitz.
On page 36, near the bottom of the page. No, a third of the way down the page. Commissioner Bashan speaks to, have you seen any dredging projects in the last 10 years being done in your travels? And I believe that was myself speaking to Chris Thibodeau regarding my ongoing interest in the algae bloom project.
That's correct, Alan. I made a mistake.
That's okay. Your mistakes are small compared to all these minutes going on and on. I respect what you've been doing here for years.
Okay, thank you.
It's just, there's one other small one word on the last page, 37. 3/4 of the way down, I speak. And third sentence down, it says years, comma, because I believe this stretching may have been done back in the 70s. That should be dredging. And my pronunciation these days is not as clear as it used to be either, so you have to excuse me for that.
Okay, thank you, Alan. Anything else?
None from me, thank you.
Okay, any other commissioners? Any hands raised? None?
No.
All right, seeing no other amendments, motion to accept the minutes?
I'll make a motion.
All right, I got a motion from Commissioner Bashan. Can I get a second?
I'll second that motion. Commissioner
Second from
Conway.
Commissioner Conway. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstentions? Seeing none, move on to the next item. Public hearing, we have nothing scheduled. Yeah, we have public participation on non-agenda items. Each speaker is limited to 2 minutes. Any member of the public wishing to speak, please come forward. Seeing none in the room, do we have anybody online wishing to speak?
We have no attendees other than council people and one of the applicants.
Okay, very good. Seeing none, we'll move on to new business. Under new business, we have application IW-25-13 to remove trees within the upland review area at 283 Hillcrest Ave in the R12 zone. Applicant owner contact Erica Gonzalez. If the applicant is online, would they unmute themselves and introduce themselves, name, address, and give us your presentation for your application, please?
Hey, hello, how are you? Yes, my mom is here, but my mom doesn't speak English, so I represent my mom. So
Okay, very good.
she name is Erica Janet Sanchez Gonzalez, and the house is 283 Hillcrest Avenue, Newington.
All right, can you describe what you're asking?
So I ask him because I have my yard right in the house, but I have 2 big trees is come to the house. So I want to cut the trees, but the level to the floor. I don't want to take the everything. So I want to only put it level to the floor and put a fence for my dogs, because I have dogs, and the dogs is when it's out is going fast. The last time, yesterday in the night, the dogs is leaving and the dogs come back like 3 or 4 a.m. So that scared me for my family, because everything is work, and when my brothers come to the school is a big deal, that one. But Only I want to the trees and put a fence. That's it.
Okay, I'm gonna ask our town engineer, Chris Zibido, to comment on this. Chris, it looks like you put together a memorandum. And you have some information for us on this, site and the request.
Yes, so this property is adjacent to the large wetland. That is the back of the radio station on Willard.
Chris, can you make sure your mic is on?
My apologies, I now have a green light. So yes, this property is adjacent to the large wetland area that is the rear of the radio station on Willard Avenue. The property is a residential use. It is proposed to be used for a daycare as well as to keep the dogs in. I did not actually enter the property, but I did drive by it at one point to take a look at it, and it's mostly manicured as a lawn. I can't tell how far back the lawn goes under the trees or whatnot. But the applicant is requesting to remove 2 trees that they feel are hanging over the home and replace them with pear trees. And I state in my recommendations that the impact to the wetlands would be minimal. To place the fence as the disturbance would be the removal of the 2 trees and the setting of the fence posts.
How close are the trees to the house?
I cannot tell from the street.
So you haven't been on the site?
No,
other
just
than from the street?
what I could see from the road.
Because I would like you to be out there and get a better understanding of the property before going on this recommendation. Because I was gonna ask, pretty much the same thing Commissioner Bashant was. Can you point the trees out like on a plot plan to us?
We don't have anything that would show it other than these various aerial tools we have, such as Google and or our own, say, GIS. It was indeterminate when I put this report together for you. You can't really tell an individual tree from the rest of the trees that are out there. So the 2 that are in question are not distinguishable from tools I have available.
Yeah, so on this photograph here, can you just explain like what the color coding is? I'm understanding red is probably the perimeter.
So the blue is our mapped wetlands from our town. This is an image from our GIS. So the blue is the mapped wetlands, and then the brown with the blue borders is the upland review area. As you can see, it covers that part of the property that isn't in the wetland. And then the yellow, it simply indicates that's the parcel that was clicked on to display the ownership information.
Okay, is that upland review area or wetlands?
Upland review area.
Okay, so that's the upland review, that's not
Yeah.
actual wetlands.
The blue is the wetlands from our mapping. I don't believe that it likely goes that far up into the lot. And I say that based on the second page shows the image from the National Fish and Wildlife Services database of inland wetlands. And you can see from that one that the area of wetland is more of that southwest corner. That's the darker green on top of the green that is the trees. I know that's a little hard to distinguish. You see what I'm showing you there? The white box is the property.
So if I'm looking at this, it appears as though half the yard would be wooded, but the request sounds like it's only for 2 trees to be removed.
Correct. And then the additional request to be able to put fence posts in the upland review area and the wetland corner.
And so the applicant's not asking to remove all the trees on the property?
No.
Is a fence even required?
Well, to keep the dogs and the children in.
No, I'm saying is a fence required to come before us?
I wouldn't think for the fence itself, no. I would think that because the fence posts themselves, this might be a very narrow interpretation on my part, that to set fence posts, if it was just the fence, we would not likely have made them do an application. But between the disturbance for the two trees coming down and the associated root balls, throw the fence in for good measure.
He's saying he's gonna leave the root balls apparently.
Okay,
That's what I read.
Yeah, that's what it says in here.
okay.
Chairman Zilla, Commissioner Pasquich, have my hand up.
Go ahead, Commissioner Paskowitz.
Do we have photographs of these two trees and knowledge of the species?
I do not.
Well, I think it's time we took pictures and showed them to the commission sooner than later. So can we do that forward?
We can do that if I can get access to the property. The day I went by, apparently there's nobody home.
Well, ask for an appointment.
What'd you say?
Ask for an appointment.
We can do that.
That's simple.
I would feel better if we, had a site plan and understood better where the trees were, and knew what species they were.
When you say a site plan, if we don't have anything on file, are you asking them to have a survey done for this?
I'm not asking for a survey, but any kind of reference that can show us in proximity of where
Okay.
those trees are. in
I
relation
just wanted to be
else.
clear on that. Site plan means something very different to me.
Okay.
So,
That's my ask. I don't know what the rest of the commission would
Okay.
like. So Commissioner Met,
Trees, are they big enough to fall in the house?
I can't tell from the street.
seems like we don't have enough information. Commissioner Ellis.
The discrepancy between the two reports of where the wetlands is, where does that come from? And which do we go with?
Well, that's a fair question. Our mapping dates back, as I understand it, to when they were hand drawn in the 70s, and they have just been carried forward with each version of whatever map we use. Currently, it's GIS. Where the National Fish and Wildlife Service gets their information from, I would presume it's from the Natural Soil Conservation Service's web mapping, but I can't be certain of that. It doesn't say on their website, at least I didn't see it written anywhere, what their source of information is, but they are a recognized standard.
But we're
In fact-
bound by our own maps though, are we not?
Yes. Unless somebody chooses to challenge that. I
Yeah.
would not ask a residential homeowner who's putting up a fence to get a soil scientist to show where the wetland boundary
No.
is.
And I think we should give credit to the homeowner for even applying for this, because most people would just act their trees down and not even think about it because they're unaware.
Yeah, I'm hesitant to deny this because even if we don't like the species of the tree being cut down, is that don't they have rights to cut down trees?
Well, if they're not stumping it, yes. If I had realized they weren't stumping it, I would not have made them apply.
What does that mean?
If they're not disturbing the soil, if they're taking the tree down but leaving the stump in the ground and not disturbing the soil, there's no reason to apply to the commission.
I see Commissioner Siddell has his hand up.
Mr. Chairman, can you hear me?
Yes.
So I agree with Commissioner Pascowitch. I think we need some photos of the area to show what the area looks like. I mean, you don't have to make an appointment, but that's something the homeowner can submit. Right? So the
Yes.
other alternative, if decides not to mill the stump, is that a big deal? Then he can withdraw the application, could he not?
I suppose that's true.
So I'd like to hear from the applicant.
Didn't you say something?
All right, Commissioner Bashan.
I don't completely agree with Chris that cutting the trees wouldn't require a permit, because I think in some narrow circumstances, it could. Let's say there was a historic tree there or something very special. I'm not saying that that's the case here. I think in most cases, I would agree with you. But so I think that's maybe too broad of a brush to paint that we wouldn't be interested in any work within the wetland. It's within the wetland.
It's
Now,
ground
it looks like
disturbance.
it's within the wetland.
It would be, the definition would be ground disturbance within the wetlands.
Right, but we also have section 6 of our regulations would protect the vegetative buffer. So
True.
regardless of the soil disturbance.
But, yeah, so I think in some narrow cases, it would be of interest to us, I would say. I'm
And
not
this is
sure
a-
if this is the case or not.
This is a very narrow case where you have
Yeah.
fence posts and 2 trees, yes.
All right, so it sounds like the commission has some questions that are outstanding and we need a little bit more information. Doesn't sound like a big ask, but we could just get a little bit more and then does the commission want this applicant to come back or would we be comfortable with letting Chris handle this as agent approval once he gets the information and I can discuss it with him?
If you discuss
Commissioner
it.
Pasquich speaking here.
All right, hold on. Sure, Paskowitz.
Yes.
Go ahead.
I'm with the recommendation you made, one of them, which is to have Chris handle this in administrative approval and follow up with the photographs and such and species that we asked for. I think that's prudent and enough.
All right, with the, so the commission is comfortable with letting Chris do this as agent approval as long as he gets that information and I review it with him and we're comfortable. I'll speak or I'll represent the commission.
Yeah, I think as long as you review it, huh? Maybe a couple pictures of the trees, just to make sure they're not some kind of a legacy tree or something special, which I doubt they are, so.
That's not the point if it's a legacy tree. Every species is special as part of a forest ecosystem.
All right, for the applicant online, any comments you want to make before we table this and turn it over to our town engineer?
Hello, I have a question. Sorry for interaction, but if I can cut the trees, is fine. I can put it only in my fence for my dogs and the childs to my mom's care it for the daycare. But if the tree, I can cut the trees. That's fine. I put it close to the trees, something like that. But I don't want to like too much stuff because I want to start to put it the fence. But if I can cut it, that's fine. My dad sent me right now the part.
Okay, anything that you want to request, we're gonna have you work with the town engineer. And then he'll discuss it with me. Probably we won't need to meet again. But we'll let him handle this with you.
All right. Thank you so much.
You are quite welcome. Have a good evening.
You too. Bye bye.
Motion to table.
Make a motion to table the application.
Motion by Commissioner Bashant, second by Commissioner Lamette. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Any abstentions? Seeing none, motion passes. We're tabling this application and it will go on for agent approval pending the information requested this evening.
You need a motion to authorize the agent approval, or do you want to do that after we discuss it?
We already have the consensus
Okay.
of the commission. Moving on, new business application IW 25-14 to construct a single-family residence within the upland review area at 33 Laurel Circle in the R20 zone. Applicant Rossetti Development LLC, owner S.J. Fish and Sons Incorporated. Contact Robert Rossetti. Is the applicant present?
Please note on the next line down on the agenda, this is just to be received tonight. They will present next month.
Okay. Anything in here you want to review with us while you have us, Chris?
It's pretty straightforward. However, there is a discrepancy again between our town mapping and the soil scientist's report. I figured we would let the applicant explain that when he presents next month. But from the copy of the plan that you received in your packet, they show the wetland limit closer to the rear of the property. This property, Royal Circle, butts up against the back of the properties on the Berlin Turnpike in that part of town near Superior Avenue. So our mapping shows something a little bit different than what this shows. So that's going to require an explanation on their part.
So is it something that requires a map amendment since they have a wetland soil scientist and I'm assuming he flagged everything and we'll be able to compare the two maps? We normally go for a map amendment.
If you choose to go that route, we can request that. It seems to me that's a fairly small difference. This lot is pretty small.
And you say
But-
small difference.
Well, I mean, between the two lines on the map, it's not a very large area by square foot.
I mean, if they're going.
I don't know what the threshold is for having them do a map amendment.
If they're proposing to build a home here, correct?
They are.
I would think that they would want a map. If there's a discrepancy between the maps, because again, we're bound by our town maps, correct?
How bound are you?
I don't, you could have to tell us. Yeah.
I mean, what I'm getting at is they have a soil scientist who says the line is someplace other than we do.
And we might perfectly accept that if they do a map amendment, correct?
Let's do it the way it's supposed to be done. If we
Well,
need a map
would you
amendment,
rather let them make their presentation at next month's meeting and see if you feel they need a map amendment?
What do the regulations say as far as map amendments? As long as it, complies, it's got to comply with the regulations. So it can't be like, a warm and fuzzy feeling on our part. It has to be by the regulations. So whatever the regulations say requires a map amendment, then that's what we do.
Okay.
I mean, to answer, if I might answer his question, I would say, okay, but that might set it back even further, but if they came here and then we told them they needed a map amendment, another month away, but let's see what the consensus is here.
It could set them back further, yes. Could make them come back in November. No.
Right.
So we have a month to figure it
Regulations,
out.
see if it requires a map amendment. That's all
Okay.
I'm saying.
Yep, we can do that.
All right, anything else on this one before we go to table it?
Mr. Chairman, if I may, I have a question for Chris.
Commissioner Sadell.
You
Yes.
don't need to table it, by the way. It's just to be received tonight on the agenda. That's all we were doing.
Go ahead, Commissioner Sadell.
So what is the difference between R12 and R20? What does that mean? I'm not in real estate. What does that mean?
Those are two of our zoning, residential zones. They have different area requirements. R20 is a larger area required than an R12 is.
The square footage, by thousands.
It goes by acreage then.
No, by thousands of square feet. So 12 is 12,000, 20 is 20,000.
Thank you.
And there may be differences in side yard setbacks, that sort of thing.
Next question, does the clock start to tick even though it's presented? The clock is not started on this application. Is that true or
It's-
false?
It starts tonight because we've received it tonight.
Okay. Could there possibly be a rush at the end because you're going to lose 30 days? What's going to happen at the next meeting, so on and so forth? I don't want the commission to be pressured to make a decision on this if they don't have to.
Well, that's a very good point. So why did we bother putting this on the agenda if we're gonna hear it next month anyway?
Because they applied.
Right, but
I mean, if we didn't
It's on the
receive
agenda,
it
that's-
tonight, it would have been received by statute
to
and
me, the clock starts when it gets on our agenda and we start to discuss it, and that's tonight.
it starts either when it's received in front of you at the commission or within, I believe it's 21 days from the date of receipt. So clock would have started eventually anyway.
So it started what date?
We received it, I'm going to say, we have to have something here stamped. Hold on a minute.
I mean, it just seems interesting that they pushed the limit of wetlands right to the property. Basically saying there is no wetlands.
That is what they're saying.
But our town map almost has an entire parcel in the lot.
That's true.
So I mean, this seems like it'd be a pretty big mapping fix here. This isn't a couple feet, this is the entire parcel.
Okay, none of my copies have stamps on them, so I do know when that was received. It would have been, the official copy upstairs has a stamp on it. But anyway, that would have been the beginning of the clock. That would have set in motion when they're, either it's, whichever comes first, either that, I believe it's 21 days, or when it comes in front of the commission. That starts their timeline for receipt.
All right, anything else, Commissioner Sedell?
I'm fine, thank you.
Great. Okay, then we will move on to old business. Application IW 25-11. Extend parking lot approximately 180 feet and to add a retaining wall at the southern portion of the existing parking lot into the historical pad site at 2929 Bowen Turnpike in the PD Plan Development Zone. Application ESC Group Incorporated, contact Frank Vasca, owner Berlin Turnpike 2929 LLC. See, Mr. Vasca is present. You just state your name and address for the record. And I believe there are some updates to the plan, and you have some additional information for us that was requested at the last meeting.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Again, good to see you all this evening. Again, for the record, my name is Francis Vaca from the BSC Group in Glassbury, Connecticut. And again, we are here tonight for additional discussion on Casa d'Oro, Newington, the parking lot extension. And again, purpose to reiterate, respectfully request Conservation Commission approval under Section 10 of the Newington Inland Wetland Regulations. Tonight, I am going to go through some information that was discussed at the previous meeting. I'm going to show the added site trees that was a requirement of the planning and zoning requirement for the site, but it's relevant to this discussion. I have tree and wetland, some opinions. I call them out as an assessment, but they are opinions from the professionals in my company, both a landscape architect and a professional wetland scientist with regard to the wetland area. And I will close by just briefly updating the commission on the updated parking and the updated wall layout based on conversations and discussions at the previous meeting. Again, we're discussing the portion of the property that is to the south of the main Casa d'Oro restaurant, the pad site, again, to define pad site, a potential future site that would be usable for commercial development on the Berlin Turnpike, and then the wetland associated with the rear portion of the property. Existing site of the existing size of the site, 3.56 acres with the existing building and the 109 parking spaces. And again, this was the orange line identifies the previously disturbed area. This plan is new. You haven't seen it. So all of the random circles that you see with all of the the call outs are identifying the trees. A representative from BSC Group went on site with a GIS identifying device and identified 53 trees that are 6-inch caliper or greater. They're identified as seen on this plan. It has been included in the site plan, I should say. Wrong way. For the proposed development, I'll speak a bit further on the design of the wall changes a bit later in the presentation, but we are proposing 25 of the 53 trees to be removed as a component of to accommodate the proposed development. They're identified here by the X's. The plan itself shows a bit more information on what those trees specifically would be. There is no specific decision as to which trees. It's essentially the ones that would be associated with the disturbance. With regard to the wetlands, the individual, and I have actually with me this evening, I have Mr. Jonathan Kuziel, who's a professional wetland scientist. He actually was the one that performed the investigation of the trees. So he was out there. He basically took the tree count But as a professional wetland scientist, I also asked him to essentially provide an opinion associated with his interpretation of the wetland itself to provide additional feedback to the commission. If you allow me to apologize, I did not have time to get this information, this email into the record. I'm going to read it into the record here. And I also, again, I have Mr. Kuziel here as well to answer any questions should there be any associated with the wetland itself. So this is an email to me from Mr. Kuziel. To whom it may concern. The wetland is situated approximately along the northwest perimeter of the Casadoro property in the form of a linear ditch. It functions as a stormwater retention and conveyance feature during rain events and snowbelt from the surrounding development. The ditch appears to be hydraulically connected to both the larger wetland complex south of the Berlin Turnpike and another complex north of Lewis Street. Such connections suggest that some of the functions and values of those larger wetland resources may also apply, although in a limited capacity, to the ditched area. These include wildlife habitat, both aquatic and benthic, sediment and pathogen retention, and nutrient removal. I consider these to be supplemental and secondary in importance to its primary role in floodwater storage. I also asked, and this is one additional email I'm adding in, the information provided on the site with specifically relation to the trees. I understand that there was the majority of the concern at the previous meeting regarding the trees. So I asked one of my licensed landscape architects to examine the trees and the information provided on those slopes. And if I may add this into the record, Frank, this is an email from Tuesday, September 26th from Jesse Harris. He's a professional landscape architect licensed in the state of Connecticut. Frank, after examining the trees along the bordering slope portion of the site and the proposed design, I would like to offer the following thoughts. As part of the proposed site improvement, several trees within the buffer have been identified for removal. These trees exhibit conditions that limit their suitability for long-term retention, including poor health, invasive status, pardon me while I pronounce this, Alanthus altissima, I believe it is, which the common name of that is the tree of heaven. It is an invasive species, and there's a large stand of it located on the south portion of the property. And low ecological quality. Their removal is necessary to accommodate the planned improvements while also enhancing the overall function of the buffer by reducing invasive pressure and allowing for the establishment of higher quality native vegetation. The removal of the invasives should be a benefit to the local ecology. Any questions? Let me know. I also would like to add that this was part of the original soil assessment provided back in prior to even meeting in front of the commission, but this came from the wetland delineation, and I'm just pointing out the fact that there is a comment provided as far as the class for the wetlands that the understory is generally dominated, generally dominated by invasive species, which I just wanted to bring the attention to the commission of that from the soils report. Commissioner Paswich, I noticed that you have your hand raised.
Yes, I want to speak to the tree species.
Yes.
If you know, are there any cottonwood trees on that site they're in that area speaking to?
There are, I believe there are 2 to 3 of the cottonwoods in that area, but I did coordinate that with my landscape architect, and he said they are getting close to the end of their useful life and will eventually, if not very quickly, turn into hazard trees that have the potential to could potentially fall at some point, either to damage any trees that are currently any trees that are currently existing there or any potential future development.
I just want to ask it, repeat something. Did you say you spoke to your licensed arborist?
I did not speak to a licensed arborist. I spoke to one of my landscape architects. We currently do not have a licensed arborist on staff at the BSC group, but I have the potential to discuss that with someone that I do have access to. There is in fact, let me rephrase that. We do have a licensed arborist on staff. He is located out of our Worcester office.
Well, in the state of Connecticut, it's required to determine the maturity or risk of a tree in an area of public domain or buildings that it be evaluated by a licensed arborist and no one else.
Understood.
I want to refer this to Chairman Zellick. Chairman Zellick, can I speak to you?
Go ahead.
There are different species of cottonwoods, as you know, and I don't recall which cottonwood, if you remember, because we did some site visits together in earlier years, is the most dominant one for protection in wetlands, if you remember.
So, Commissioner Bishop just helped me with my memory, and it is the swamp cottonwood.
That's
Yes,
what we
I remember that now.
learned about.
I'd like the gentleman that just spoke, is it Baca?
Yes.
If you could have the person you speak to evaluate that tree, to whether it's a swamp cottonwood or not.
I do have information here from the professional wetland scientist who does have information on that. I'm going to turn the mic over to him.
Thank you.
Hi, Jonathan Kuziel, PWS for the BSC group. I did
sir.
the tree analysis and they determined, or I determined it was Eastern cottonwoods.
So just for the record, can you state your qualifications? Because I believe Commissioner Paskowitz had a concern that this should be done by an arborist. Is that correct, Commissioner?
Yes, sir.
Okay, so if you could just state your credentials.
I have a background in plant biology. I don't have any certifications as far as arborist, but I do know my trees. And I could go on record and say it is a Eastern cottonwood, but that's as far as what I could tell you.
Okay, do you know how to identify a swamp cottonwood versus an eastern cottonwood?
I believe swamp cottonwood should be in wetland areas. This is on an upland slope. I think that would be the different aspect of where you find eastern and swamp cottonwood.
I want to, Chairman Zellick, I want to speak a little bit to that.
Okay, go ahead, Commissioner Paskowitz.
Back in the history of this land, as it's now been developed over time and asphalt's been included not just on the restaurant, but the parking lot before. Is there any record that that whole area may have been a wetland?
Can I respond to that, Commissioner Zellick?
So to address the Commissioner Paskowitz's question regarding the wetlands, historically, you do have a wetlands report that you submitted with the first session that we had. Do you have this online, this photograph?
I have, yes, I have access to that. Give me one
Okay,
second.
so
I can.
let's
yes.
bring that up for the commission.
Sure. 1 second.
I think this will help Commissioner Paskowitz.
1 second. I have it right here. I will enlarge this area. 1 second.
Okay, so for all intents and purposes, the Berlin Turnpike, let's assume it runs north and south. Across from the Doro property, just to the southeast there's a large wetland.
Yeah.
On the other side of the Berlin Turnpike. So my assumption is that wetland exists because the Candlewick neighborhood, that those slopes, I believe Commissioner Siddell, you live in that area.
Yes, I do.
There are some tributaries that probably run into this larger wetland down on the Berlin Turnpike. And I would assume that a lot of this area was wetland at one time. If I'm just looking at this map and I see that isolated wetland that's there now. So, and I believe it looks like there's a major artery. If you could just scroll back down a little bit. It looks like there's an artery in that wetland that crosses under the Berlin Turnpike and then becomes this what we're calling a connector that goes out to what's the is it Churchill Park area?
Churchill Park area, Clemwood Mirror
All right.
Complex.
So just for the commission's benefit, I did visit this site behind the laser tag. I pulled into that area and I could see that brook, and it was as described in the wetlands report, about 5 feet wide, 6 to 16 inches deep, with running water through it. So, you know, for all intents and purposes, it's a brook. We're calling it a connector. There's no name for it. It's not a named water course. But it seems to connect that wetland on the eastern side with that water course that runs along the Casadoro property. And then under, is that Lewis Street?
Lewis
Yes.
Street, yes.
So it is a flowing water course, although, you know, it does also serve the purpose for flood control from these developments that surround it.
Can I speak briefly on the history associated with that area? My understanding, based on information that was provided to me by the previous owners of the property, Mr. Rod Mortensen and his family have owned this. This was the former location of Mortensen's Dairy. And being a resident of the town and his anecdotal information, it was his understanding that in 1951, approximately this area, I do not have the name of the contractor, but this area was essentially filled entirely. So I do not have any historical information on the wetland complex in the area, but I do know that this area was manufactured in or around early 1950s associated with this development. And it's understandable to see that based on the rectilinear shape of in this case, the wetland area, because it essentially hugs the slope associated with that development. So this area was previously filled for that. I just wanted to set the historic understanding based on the information that was provided to me by someone who previously owned the property. Are there any other questions?
Commissioner Bashan.
Yes, Commissioner Pasquich here.
Hold on, Alan. I'm going to go with Commissioner Bashan, then we'll go to you.
All right, thank you.
Just to speak about the variety of the cottonwood tree being on the slope, depending on how far up the slope it is, it certainly could be rooted in historically wetland soils, based on everything we just heard.
Potentially.
In addition, there are other identifiers. I believe the bark has a certain characteristic which distinguishes it from the normal cottonwood, eastern cottonwood.
Yeah, from my experience, eastern cottonwoods could get like this, and those swamp cottonwoods are usually a smaller caliber.
To clarify, to add some additional information to that, Mr. Bashan, the majority of the cottonwoods on the site are, I believe they're upwards of 18 to 30 inches in diameter calipers. They are the larger of the trees that have been identified. The trees that were identified on the site, on average, were approximately 8 inches that had been recorded. Everything else is substantially smaller. Commissioner Pasquich.
Alan, we can't hear you. So Alan, you may be on mute. We can't hear you.
I'm here. Yes, thank you. You asked me a question?
Go ahead. You wanted to say something after Commissioner Bashan?
Yes, thank you, Commissioner Bashan, for exuding on my interest as well, and your knowledge of what you know. I'd like to know if a swamp cottonwood is an actual species or if it's a derivative of an eastern cottonwood. So I think we need an arborist to determine that, or someone of very good knowledge. I mean, is a swamp cottonwood its own species? That's the question.
Okay, and I just want to drive home a point for the commission. I mean, anytime we're into one of these applications, this is where I think we need that environmental impact study. We need the inventory done. It should be part of the package before we even start these meetings. So going forward, Chris, I just, want to kind of drive that point home that we need all this information before we get into it, because I hate to stop in the middle of this and ask the applicant for more information, which would have been beneficial to everyone if we had it up front at the beginning of the meeting. So things like the environmental impact study, complete inventory of, the vegetated areas, those types of things, I think we really need to get in front of us for these larger applications.
Okay.
All right. So again, in all fairness to the applicant, I hate to have to ask, for this additional information, from the commission, but we are asking for it. So, Commissioner Paskowitz, are you done?
Well, I just want to make a comment to yourself and what your prudent is saying. And I also want to raise my hand to the point that, I'm pro-business as well. I'm not just a tree hugger and wetland person. I'm pro-business in Newington, and we want to continue business as best quality and volume that they can do and continue. So I'm not against business. I want you to know that now, or economic development, because I come from part of that as well. That's all I have to say. Thank you.
All right. I see Commissioner Siddell has his hand up and has been waiting.
Thank you, Chairman Zellick. Question for Mr. Vaca. Did you say, okay, I noticed you mapped the trees, you ones that are certain diameter, you marked them on the map, but you said you're not sure which trees will be cut down that will be associated with the disturbance. Can you rephrase that?
Hold on one second. I will in fact, what I'm going to share on here is actually, I'm going to share a blow up of the actual plan itself as opposed to what my presentation, because it will be easier to understand what's actually happening. Give me 1 second here. All right. All right, so some of the trees that were identified, if you look at I'm looking on sheet C 1.0 here, which is the tree location plan.
Mm-hmm.
So what is being identified on this plan, you can disregard the top number is essentially the elevation associated with where the shot was taken, but the description essentially describes what the tree was identified as and what the size was, predominantly the size. So red cedar, 7-inch, that's a 7-inch caliper, and just additional information on the 2 cedars attached at ground, same. So basically what this is describing, and the main portion of those areas that would be removed essentially are the areas that will be associated with the proposed development. So to essentially correlate for example, Norway maple, green ash, those essentially are the ones that will be correlated with those X's that will be removed as part of the proposed development. We have pulled back some of the wall, and I'll talk about that in a bit in the future, but those are the trees. What I meant in my phrasing was that there was not any specific decision to select any type of trees particularly for removal. It's essentially the trees that have been identified that are larger than 6 inches of caliper. Those are the trees that are identified on this plan that would be removed. Now, I would like also to make note of another item that both my landscape architect and the soil scientist that did the original report, there is a substantial amount of invasive species on this site. Essentially based on the information provided on the soils report identifies that the majority of the understory area is all invasive species. And also correct me if I'm wrong, I believe that a number of the cottonwoods that are on site are also, I wouldn't say strangled, but there is evidence of vines and poison ivy and other growths that are essentially growing off of those larger trees. And again, what I'm trying to reiterate here is the fact that a large portion of this site that is in the quote unquote forested area is forested with the majority of invasive species that are considered hazardous to the habitat and the ecology of this area. And it is the opinion of my professional landscape architect who does do these designs. They may not be necessarily a arborist, but they are professionals in our field that we utilize often for advice and information with regard to tree species and how these plantings work, for lack of a better phrase. And the bigger underlying component of what he was presenting to me is that there are large stands of tree of heaven, which is one of the invasive species. There are other large stands of smaller shrubbery like Japanese knotweed, and not in this case Phragmites. Luckily, they're not there, but there are other components that have started to take over. A large number of those invasive species areas will be eradicated as a result of this improvement. And if I can reiterate, one of the items he indicated in his email is that it will essentially alleviate some of the pressure that these invasives are putting on some of this habitat. So by some of this improvement, by providing this improvement, we are essentially relieving some of the stress that is currently being placed on this forested habitat by these plantings that we have no control over, that will ultimately kill all of the existing native species in this general vicinity as it is. So I just wanted to make sure that that was clear.
So what I'm hearing is these trees should be removed and all these invasives should be removed and replaced with an 18-foot retaining wall and pavement, and that's better than what's there today.
No, I'm not
That's
trying
the way
to.
it sounds.
I understand the way it's sounding. I'm not saying that pavement is better than the trees. What I'm trying to say is the implication that we are just going in there and cutting everything down with no thought is not what we're saying. Is we are putting thought into this, and there are benefits to some of these improvements for what we are showing, and that is exactly why I'm highlighting the fact that there are invasives in the area, which are in and of themselves destroying this area.
Chairman Zeller?
Gentlemen, I think something we should think of at the moment. Frank hasn't finished his presentation. There's other information he needs to share with you about the wall, for instance.
Okay.
And I think we jumped ahead with the question and answer session before we finished what Frank had to say.
No, I want to continue.
So
I
I'm
would
gonna,
like to
I
continue.
see two hands. I got Commissioner Paskowitz and Commissioner Sadell. I'm gonna let them speak and then we'll let the applicant continue his presentation. So Commissioner Paskowitz.
Yes. My knowledge and background and understanding of invasive species, not just in Connecticut, but across the board, by eradicating trees and forest that are surrounded with it will not cause an effect of the invasive species to leave their roots. There is no way to eradicate invasive species. They come back. I don't care if you're in Georgia, South Carolina, Connecticut, Maine, Canada. They keep continuing because the winds and atmospheric hurricanes from other countries keep bringing in these seeds. And not only that, the ships coming in the St. Lawrence River carry these seeds on board. We're not going to eradicate this area by cutting down trees that are surrounded by invasives. That's a moot point. That's all I have to say.
All right, thank you, Commissioner Paskowitz. Commissioner Sadell.
Okay, one final question. I hear what you're saying, Mr. Vaca, but I'm interested in knowing what your landscape architect says as far as restoring this upland review area. If we move all these trees that's on this plan here, I assume that's a done deal. All the X's will be removed. What is the mitigation plan or restoration plan? That's my next final question.
I just have one comment about trees.
We'll let Mr. Vasca respond to Commissioner Sadell.
There is, I don't have it, that's part of my presentation. Well, I can show it over here on I'll zoom over to the planting plan. We are showing a restoration as part of the planting plan. We are not providing the same number of trees that are being removed, that we don't have the ability to do that, but we are satisfying the requirements associated with the zoning regulations. And what we are offering is that a lot of the lower grassed areas throughout the entire developable area here, where the wall is being placed, and disturbed areas associated with the wall, we are replacing with a pollinator mix. So it's not going to be a mowable mix. It's basically going to be it's essentially a wildflower mix that is intended to work with the local habitat, and in particular pollinators, to provide additional support to them. And again, not have additional maintenance associated with it. And then the tree species are all native to the state of Connecticut. All of our projects are designed for that, and those areas where we can place them in the development and still satisfy the requirements for parking and for landscaping, we have placed them as identified here. They haven't, the only islands that they are not currently located on are on the water quality islands that are currently used for the stormwater management of the new proposed parking area.
Okay.
Commissioner, one comment before he continues with his presentation, just because we're talking about the trees. I'm looking at C1-1. And I see all the trees with the X's, but the trees that you're proposing to leave, the majority of them are right in the middle of the wall, or how would those trees remain?
That's not the location of the wall. That's the location of the perimeter controls. So the perimeter controls are downslope of that. So those perimeter controls, although not necessarily coordinated with the location of the trees, those perimeter controls are down gradient from the proposed wall installation.
Talking about the erosion and.
Yes, the wood berms and so on. I apologize for the how that's not clear. Yes, I understand. It looks like that's the new wall. That is not the wall. The wall is upslope of that.
I thought this was the wrong one.
No, that's the perimeter.
So you're saying the wall is uphill from that?
That's correct.
So the wall's got to be up here somewhere. It's just not on this image.
That's correct.
On C1-1.
Yes, I apologize for the confusion on that plan. Yes, that is not the wall. That is the erosion berm.
Okay, what is that right angle then? Just move your cursor up
Right up here?
to the upper left-hand corner. Yeah,
This
what
right
is
here?
that right angle? Is that the wall?
This is the property line. So what
That's
we
the
have
property
done,
line.
and so this is probably the good time at which I will, as long as there's no other questions, this would be a good time for me to transition back to the presentation to talk about the changes that we've made with regard to the design. Okay. If this will take back over, go. There we go. All right. Went through these. So the change that we made is, so if you will recall from the previous design set, this wall used to continue over through here, angle over, and then come over. What we have done is we have pulled back the wall, and we've pulled back the design of the parking lot area to essentially curve this wall around. We've provided, it's approximately, I think it's close to 16 to 18 feet of reduction in the size of the wall location here. And we've also been able to, by doing that, the original height of the wall in this area was 18 feet. We've been able to pull the wall back down to 12 feet. One thing, and I'm going to bring this up at this point because it's relevant. The main reason we have not looked at moving the wall any closer or removing any additional parking to try to pull the wall farther away from the property line is, I would like to reiterate that this is still considered a pad site. It is still a commercially buildable site. There is not any intention of us at this point building anything in the future. However, this is still a buildable pad site for the developer. So if there were a situation in 5 years where Casadoro does not need the parking space that it would have, the size of this layout here essentially allows for the potential installation of a revenue generator, whether it be a additional building or something like that, versus by us substantially is not the right word, by us potentially removing a few of the spaces to try to mitigate some of the wall installation, it will ultimately add a substantial amount of pavement in the form of the parking area, but will remove the potential for a solution in the situation that 2 years down the road, 4 years down the road, 10 years down the road, the parking lot is essentially no longer used. So we have essentially pulled the wall and redesigned the parking to allow for the maximum amount of usability by the parking area. We have lost 5 spaces, so we are now adding 150 spaces. There's a total parking count of 211 spaces. But again, we believe that the necessity for that, for the Casadora development, is needed for this. In the future, if there is a situation where it is no longer necessary, there is still an option to move forward with the full permitting process, coordination with wetlands, because it will be a full site plan approval and all of that. But that is not being pursued at this point. But this will allow us to have the ability to potentially look to that in the future. Whereas substantially modifying this wall to pull this all back will eliminate the potential for that. And I don't want it to be a situation 5 years down the road where we no longer need all of this parking. And we've eliminated the ability for us to potentially use this pad site as another opportunity for a revenue generator. I wanted to bring this up. I did not have the ability to speak about that in the past, but I wanted to make sure that was clear that we have examined other ideas. We examined other wall modifications associated with that. That is why we are trying to work with the commission by providing these modifications, still maintaining as much as we could from a parking standpoint, while still trying to pull the wall back to the best that we are able to and still provide adequate space for what we would hope to see at some point in the future, if required.
Chairman Zeller,
Commissioner Paskowitz.
what I'm hearing, or what I think I'm hearing, is there's possible intentions of using this area for another business. Just what I'm hearing, which is not a bad thing, but
No, it's not a bad thing, but I don't appreciate when an applicant comes to us and says, we want this for parking, with the possible intention of just expanding the pad site to its maximum footprint to allow for future development.
I agree.
May I clarify?
Go ahead, Mr. Vasca, you can respond.
And I was afraid that the way I presented this, there is no intention of us to change this at this point in the game. But it is still a pad site viability. Whereas if we substantially reduce this, especially, and the main governing factor behind it actually is the location of the entrance and exit through coordination with the Connecticut DOT. We don't have a lot of ability to modify the location of that, and that sets a lot of the location associated with what a potentially usable pad site could be. But I would like to, on the record, clarify that it is our aim is still the parking area, and that has always been the parking area, but it is still a buildable pad site. And there is a certain square footage required in order to allow us to have the capability to have something, should there ever be a need to have a revenue generator at some point in the future. And I apologize if it made it seem that we were trying to slip anything under the rug. That was never the indication, but this has always been, even prior to any of this application, even prior to the Bertucci's going through, it was still a viable, buildable commercial pad site.
If I may.
All right, Commissioner Bashan.
So then why did you not extend that additional parking further to the north to maximize your parking in that location?
Further to the north?
Yeah.
Like on the opposite side of the building?
No, right? Yeah, why did you stop right there where the pad site ends and the rest of the restaurant property is? Do you have the same
Oh,
ability to,
you're saying adjacent to,
along the west side going north from where you're proposing the wall to end? Why did it not continue there?
this. It could potentially continue there, but that was not what was examined. I mean, in other words, it doesn't, are you saying that like we can eliminate all of this over here and put it over here is what you're saying?
No, it just looks like you're only trying to improve this site instead of make any more improvement over here.
Well, there's only so much improvement that can be made over there because it is still considered a non-conforming site. If we were to make substantial pavement changes to a non-conforming site, it would affect planning and zoning. So we have the ability to make changes to the proposed site, the pad site. We don't necessarily have the ability to make major changes to the existing non-conforming site.
So where does the pad site terminate? What are its boundaries?
It's essentially located. This is essentially what would be considered like the end of the portion, because this is essentially the border of the original Bertucci's design. So this is the pad site area, when you want to call it a pad site area. And I'll coordinate, if I'll mention, that is one of the reasons why there's a rather strange layout of the parking in this area. We had originally proposed this to be straight, but this is one of the situations where, because this was a previously approved site plan, we do not have the ability to modify the pavement in this area because of its non-conforming nature. So we have the ability to make modifications to the pad site area and the portions around that, but not necessarily major changes to anything associated with the main development itself.
Are you seeing you don't need TPZ approval for this proposal?
Yes, we do need TPZ approval. I'm going in front of TPZ hopefully next Wednesday.
Or you're saying that you just wouldn't want to approach them on this other portion here?
The portion on the top up here is what you're saying? It has not been discussed or proposed.
Okay, before we take any more comments from commissioners, is there more to the presentation that we need to see?
That's essentially the main, I'm saying the only other slide, which I can switch to at this point, is just the fact that the drainage associated with the development has not changed. The only main difference is we have increased the landscaping area inside by about 2%. So we went from 11% up to 13%. The remainder of the drainage design is the same, and I've already presented that at previous meetings. That's essentially the changes that were made and the any additional information that I wanted to provide to the commission.
Frank, I think it's kind of important to mention that this change to the wall where it's now radiused in the southwest corner
Yes.
reduces the height of the wall from 18 to 12 feet.
Yes, I did say that. Yes.
Did you?
Yeah, I did. Yep. So
I must have been sleeping.
I do have a question, Chris. At the last meeting, I had asked you how far back would they have to pull the wall to not impact the trees or the property owner on the other side? And you responded 4 to 9 feet. So have they pulled it back 4 to 9 feet? Or is this?
Not uniformly, no. If you wanted to look at the effect of changing the wall to the radius, you benefit substantially by pulling it away from that
I want to
corner.
make sure that pullback is accommodating or addressing those issues that you raised in your memorandum.
I like this design much more than the previous one.
Right, but does it address those issues?
I feel it does, yes.
Was the wall pulled back on that west side?
the west side over
Only
here,
in the
this side.
radius.
And just to make sure I'm talking about the west side is in hold on.
West side's
The
the
west,
top.
the top of the pit.
Top side. This particular wall cannot get pulled in any more based on the fact that the way that the parking is laid out, there is not, and especially in the fact that we do not have the ability to make any modifications to the parking in the frontage over here. We do not have any, by pulling it any closer, we're already using 16-foot spaces. We do not have the ability to pull these any closer together. Otherwise we would lose not an entire row of probably upwards of 14 spaces to pull that one at all.
So the only part that was pulled back was in the radius there.
The radius area was the one that was adjusted. That's correct.
Structurally, that's probably a better design regardless.
Yes, it is.
Commissioner Siddell, you have your hand up?
Yes, I do. Thank you, Mr. Chairman. So again, answer my question, starting from the lower left, going up, making the turn to the right. What's the area, the upland review, the buffer gonna look like from the back of the wall down to the wetland, to the canal? What is that area gonna look like when you're done? I want to put a vision in my head what that's gonna look like.
Those areas that have not been disturbed will stay as they are now, and then the areas that have been disturbed will be reestablished with a pollinator mix, which would be like a wildflower restorative non-mow mix.
A grass, basically.
A tall grass, yes.
Will any trees remain on the perimeter down? Will any trees be saved? Or is this basically only won't be any trees left, essentially? Or can we put some plantings in there to make the appearance less severe, if you know what I mean?
Anything, again, the technology associated with designing these walls has such that if we have a limit to go to, we will ensure that whatever the type of wall design that we would use will satisfy that. But to answer your question directly, there is still substantial, this you can see identified here, there's 22, this is 22 feet, 22.5 feet or so to the wetland boundary. So this entire slope is currently planted. I'd say approximately 18 or so feet of this will remain as is right now, which is trees and understory coverage. The narrowest component of the wall is here. This is about 12 feet to the border of the wetland area. In this case, there's going to be a smaller amount of trees in this location, but again, that's the pinch point between the two. And any of the trees that are currently there are not proposed to be disturbed beyond the boundary of the wall itself. So yes, there's going to be some minor disturbance directly adjacent to the wall for install, but anything beyond that will still remain as is, and that is essentially is the portion of the zone that will not be touched associated with the wall installation. And all of this can be, because we have in-house landscape architecture at BSC, we have the ability in our designs to work with them to ensure that whatever potential damage or whatever we have as far as mitigational measures that we can use for any of this existing planted areas, we incorporate all of those into our plans so that the contractors are aware, right, you're going to be working in the general vicinity of these additional trees. How can we trim some of the tree root balls or something like that so that we can still get our work accomplished, but at the same time pay attention and focus on the fact that there are trees in these areas and we can't just go through and just chop all of the roots off and so on. It's essentially they have taught me a great number of things through the years that we can do to coordinate with contractors to ensure that we are providing the best product for both the developer, but as well the Conservation Commission, wetlands, and the environment.
So can something like that be added to the plan? Right now, there's nothing. I look at this as going to be a barren area. Can that be added, work with your landscape architect and display something? What's going to remain, maybe remove the invasives that are there. You talked about the pressure to the upland review area. What could we do to make that better?
The invasives associated with the development will be removed, and there are measures that are taken as a result of removal of invasives to ensure that you're not just kicking the can down the hill and moving those invasives to some other situation. But as far as we can definitely examine, especially on the outside of the wall, there are multiple different seed mixes that can be examined. We've currently proposed it as a pollinator mix, but you can very easily add additional plantings and additional seed components to the mix, like tree seeds and so on and so forth. We have the ability to modify that mix. We can modify any mix, but we can definitely modify that mix to basically reestablish this area as quickly and as efficiently as possible.
what type of foundation are you gonna need for that wall? Like you had your little cross section there. How deep is that foundation into the ground? Are you gonna have to go? How deep, how far down deep from the parking lot level? How far down to create a foundation for this wall that you have here on the right-hand side? How deep down soil removal do you need for that, something like that?
Soil removal for that, again, because we are proposing, and so I'm clear and on the record, the detail that's being identified right here is a generic detail. It's not the exact detail. Again, we haven't finalized the type of product that we will be using. However, for a modular block system, the benefit of the modular block design is that there's not a substantial amount of additional wall needed because they allow for the installation of the tiebacks, which basically are geotextile biaxial geogrids that are basically fabrics that are installed into the slope to allow for the wall to basically support itself versus having a great big giant massive foundation buried underground that you can't see. So there is going to be removal of the material to allow for the installation of the wall, but it's only required. In fact, we're doing a project in New Britain where they dug a trench, essentially. They dug a trench to install the bottom of the wall and basically installed the remainder of the wall prior to removing the slope adjacent to it so that there wasn't this great big giant massive excavation required to get the wall installed. So it was a unique situation that I observed. In order for them to do it, it was a specific type of wall that they had to use to do that. But we have the option to examine any number of manufacturers that will work with us for this specific installation that would work the best for the civil engineering associated with it, but also with the fact that we are directly adjacent to some wetland areas.
For the trench that has to be built, would you have to bring in fill to back support? You're gonna have a trench of some depth, right? But you're gonna have to, given the steepness of that slope, you're gonna have to somehow bring some earth up behind the wall there to actually have the dimensions you're talking about to support that bottom block there.
There's a small structure at the very base. There's usually, in this case, it would be approximately 12 inches of crushed stone beneath the bottom block itself for drainage purposes. But the fill behind the wall, there is a very specific type. There would be a type of fill that would be required to allow for structural support and drainage behind the wall. But the majority of the site, again, based on the type of wall that we would propose, we have the ability to work with the wall designers and come up with what is the best design for this, given the factors associated with the development. And that includes, geotechnical information, structural information provided by the wall provider. I'm not sure if I answered your question or not.
Well,
but
it's roundabout
yes,
way. I like to have some sort of visual for this design, since this is directly involves soil removal in the upland review area. That seems to be a detail I like to be addressed somehow in the plans. I realize plans can change, various options, but since it directly affects the upland review and the soil removal, I would see some sort of definition. I mean, you have some sketches in the back here. I don't know which one would apply, but what in rough schematic, this is what it's going to look like, would give me some sort of notion of what that soil removal will be and what the backfill will have to be to at least support the foundation. I think, given the steepness of the slope and the soil removal that will be required, I think that's an important detail that the commission should consider, have some knowledge about before they this application would come to a vote.
I believe this was discussed at one point in the previous meeting. And
Yes, it was by me. Yes, it was.
And as part of the building permit design for this, a stamped design of the wall will have to be submitted to the town.
Chairman
Yes.
Teller, if I may speak.
Hold on, are you finished, Commissioner Siddell?
That's it. Yeah, I'm good. I'm
Okay,
good.
I get Commissioner Bashan his hand up, and then we'll get to you, Alan.
Thank you.
I think the bigger question here is not the removal of the soil. It's going to be a massive filling operation. Do you have any estimate about how much volume of material is going to be required to level this site?
We have not looked at that material at this point.
Is it safe
It would
to
be
say
part of it.
hundreds and hundreds of cubic yards?
I haven't
Well, just
examined
looking at it,
the,
if you had to estimate.
it's,
We're talking about a major filling operation.
there is fill associated with it. Yes, there is fill associated with it. I don't have the quantity, and I'm not going to without, I try my best to just focus on the facts that I have, and I don't have the facts associated with the amount associated
Pretty
with that.
important
So
factor, because filling is one of the major things in a wetland or upland review or regulated area that we're concerned with. So
I can get the information to the commission as far as, and especially to the agent, as far as the amount of material that would be for an import for this wall. If I to focus in specific with regard to the amount of fill, the majority of the site elevation is already at grade here. Yes, there is some slope off in this area, but the main component of the fill would essentially be adjacent to the wall in the steepest slope area. It's essentially, if you're standing on the site now and you go straight out and down versus just the slope, but you're only talking about that triangle, whatever that triangle. In total, the triangle is approximately, in this case, probably between 18 and 20 feet. Yes, there's volume associated with that, and I can provide that to the agent, but it is all contained by the wall, and the design of the wall is such to allow for drainage associated with it, and then the drainage in relation to the stormwater is directed back, so that it's all going to be treated associated with our stormwater design, and all part of the planning and zoning submission, and ultimately the building permit submission.
Okay, so I'd like to, before we go to Alan, I just want to piggyback on your concern about the amount of fill. My question would be, what is the fill going to be? And is there any chance that contaminated materials could make their way in here and then seep into the adjacent wetlands? Do we have any controls over what type of fill goes in here and the quality of the fill?
Yes, we can control that.
And there
We
would
can make it a condition of the approval when that time comes, that he has to provide documentation as to the source of the fill.
and contaminated materials are strictly controlled in the state of Connecticut, and there would not be a situation where there would be import of any type of hazardous material as an import fill. It's state of Connecticut would not allow it.
All right, I'll go to Commissioner Paskowitz.
Thank you, Chairman Zelik. Listening to Commissioner Sedil, Bashan, and yourself, you're touching on all the sensitive issues and things that could contaminate wetland, and I appreciate your input. And you're right ahead of me on all of this. I want to thank you, because I'm also concerned about wetlands, as you know, going way back in time, and water quality, of course, which is most important, and intervention of contaminants in the soils, which can percolate into the water table. We don't have many wells around here, but it all percolates to the system. The system goes to the reservoir down on Long Island. It's a large scope of movement. So every little piece of place that we try to protect for intervention of pollutants is important. That's my input for now. Thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner. Chris, other commissioners online, because I can only see Commissioner Paskowitz and Commissioner Sedell. I just want to make sure that no one else is waiting with their hand up.
Nobody else.
Okay. The commissioners. Commissioner Anderson.
Yeah, my question is, I'm just trying to get a level of understanding that during the construction time, I'm looking at your, I'm looking at your parcel lines here. Your southern wall is probably about 5 feet off your property line. What's gonna be the level of disturbance going out towards the wetlands? I mean, there's gonna be some type of activity down there. And also at the same token, when we're talking about invasive species, are you gonna be doing restoration on the property just south of it? Or are you just gonna leave that as is with the invasive species and do the restoration only on your property?
To answer that second question first, we don't have the ability to do any work on an adjacent property without, we don't have, I mean, it's not our property to work on. From a mitigation standpoint, we will obviously, especially in any of the area associated with our portion of the site, we by all means could do some mitigation measures of any invasives in that area, but we don't have the ability to access any other site adjacent to us to perform any type of additional requirements or any type of additional mitigation measures on a site that is not owned by this developer. Now, to answer your initial question about the disturbance, again, there will be a strict on the erosion and sedimentation control plan and on the design plans associated with the wall construction. There will have to be phasing and construction requirements and design parameters associated with the fact that this needs to be built as close as it does to the property boundary. The wall designers will have all of these parameters and will need to factor all of those into their proposed design. I mean, this happens to be the boundary line adjacent to wetland. This could also be the boundary line adjacent to a train right of way or fill in the blank type of whatever the type of situation would be. It's similar to if you're trying to do blasting on a site adjacent to another building that's standing. There are measures that the designers of these wall systems can utilize in their designs to ensure that you can't go beyond the property line. So they are aware of that, and it's part of when coordinating with one of the wall designers, I send all of my mapping to them and all the information, and I say, this is what we have, and this is the constraints that we have, and we have to come up with a system that works for this. And they say, all right, well, you can't use this wall system because you need to have X amount of additional material in order to do that. You don't have that. So these are the options that you have to go by. Use one of these options. What is the best option for this?
Any other commissioners? All right.
I'm gonna
Commissioner Bashir.
give my observations of viewing this, because I went to the site, I looked at it a couple times. And the condition I'm more concerned about, I'm not worried about contaminated soils or even so much about the invasives or the vegetation. I'm more worried about the physical condition of that water course. And it's in a state of distress right now.
Mhm.
I don't think it can handle any more encroachment on it. That's my personal opinion. And it's filled with garbage. And I don't know who we have to see about getting that cleared, but it's going to fail and it's going to flood. It's only going to flood a parking lot, but it's going to flood. It's going to overflow. And that's my biggest concern is the physical, the future of its physical ability to function as it's functioning right now. And I don't think it could handle any more encroachment. This thing has been, I'm sure it's been moved and pushed and manipulated to where it sits today. And I understand it's off of the subject property, but I honestly don't think it could handle this type of encroachment. That's just.
Commissioner Pasquich,
Go ahead, Commissioner Paskowitz.
you just touched on something, John Bashan, that I didn't think of, is the impact on the intermittent. Is it an intermittent water course or is it a flowing water course? That's my question. Anyone else?
My observation is it's a flowing water course. Water's coming from that wetland to the west. There's a large wetland on the other side of the Berlin Turnpike. It crosses under the Berlin Turnpike. It's a flowing water course, approximately 5 feet wide, 6 to 16 inches deep. If you look in your packet, the first meeting that we had, there's a wetlands report in there and it'll describe.
Well, let me just get back to your observation and interest. Where does it move to from that area, the water course?
It flows north, passes under Lewis Street and then out to Churchill. The wetlands behind Churchill.
Oh, out to Churchill. That was an area that we were in discussion with the landfill project some time ago application. Yes, I'm well aware of that now. Thank you for filling in the mapping of that water course. So Commissioner Bashan, you brought up the mention of the potential of that being impacted. And everything we look at can be impacted. If we can, and I don't want to say the word enforce, but produce measures for something not to be impacted, that's why we're here. So Commissioner Bashan, is there something that you feel that is not in a measure of the proposal that will impact this stream?
Should I answer them? Yeah, go ahead. I just think it's the encroachment, it's the proximity to the water course that we're proposing.
During the construction or?
No, well, during, I don't see how you avoid you're 10 feet off of 10 feet from the water course or maybe a little more in the closest point.
Oh,
But also I'm concerned about the future of it, so.
Yeah, and again, to follow up, we don't have a third-party environmental scientist report. There's no environmental impact analysis that's been done here. So,
Again, my concerns are more of the physical
right,
characteristics.
what's going to happen post-development, right? The stress on that water course.
Yes, I see where you're coming from, and in my mind, I can see it in that area being impacted. And I'm also concerned about that and measures that should be taken to protect it completely from any intervention post-construction or during construction and ongoing. So that's my comment. Thank you.
Right, and Commissioner Paskowitz, you can certainly view that water course from the parking lot. You don't have to go on to the applicant's property. If you go over to Laser Quest, you can clearly see it from the parking lot. You'll get a better
I'm not familiar with Laser Quest.
Okay, well, if you look at the site plan and you see the address, you'll see the parking lot where the Price Chopper is.
Yes, sir.
Right, so from the Price Chopper parking lot, you can observe that water course. And I want to follow up on something that Commissioner Paskowitz said earlier regarding the commission and being business friendly. And we do have a track record of pretty much approving every application that comes in front of us. For the many years that I've been on this commission, I can remember only one application that was not approved, but generally all applications seem to get approved when the applicant works with the commission to come up with a design that is acceptable to the commission. So there's usually a little bit of push and pull and compromise. And then we come to typically approving these types of applications if modifications are made, which are acceptable to the commission. So I'm just gonna throw that out there and let it lie. Any other comments from commissioners?
I agree, Chairman Zelik. I agree with you 100%.
Just if I could add on to the business friendly part, to the owner of the property and to the restaurant group. My wife and I really love your work and your facilities, and we've probably been to at least 3 of them in the last 10 times in the last year alone. So between Weathersfield, West Hartford, and Newington. So I hope we're still welcome.
So we've been in there pulling out shopping carriages, garbage. We send guys down there. I feel that this whole thing is made with the wall. it's gonna solve a lot of stuff from blowing out, and we're cleaning a lot every day. So we're not, like, without doing anything, the stuff's been blowing down there for years. By us being there and cleaning all the time, it's mitigating the garbage that's in there.
Right, and then that's.
It's definitely way better than when we bought the place.
And,
What was down there, we cleared everything out. You went over the bank and saw.
Who
the
was
stuff
that
that we-
speaking? I didn't understand who's that speaking. Please.
How you doing? I'm Joe Sulo. I'm the owner of the property over there.
Hi, Joe. I'm Alan Paskowitz. Nice to meet you.
Nice to meet you.
Thank you.
So since we bought the property, we've done cleanup many times down there, especially at the beginning during the construction. There were, that was sitting dormant for a year or two. Stuff blew down everywhere. And then there was, people are bringing shopping carriage. There might have been homeless people, and I don't know. We took dumpsters of stuff out of there. So we've made great effort to mitigate. And I think building the wall and cleaning the whole thing up and having a guardrail, it's when stuff blows off the highway or wherever it goes, it stops. We can't stop the garbage coming from Laser Quest or Price Chop, it's a combination of things going on there.
Thank you for your candid background on what's going on there. I appreciate that
And
very
thank you
much.
for cleaning that up, because it's not even, that water course isn't even on your property.
Yeah,
Right, that's
we're
all.
cleaning stuff that's not even ours, but it looks like shit. You stand, park your car, you get out. You don't want to have people have all kinds of papers and shopping carriages and stuff in the water over there.
It's pretty bad. I was there the other day. So I was shocked myself. But I'm not just talking about the polluted material in there, but
If I may, is there any way to compel the property owner water course is on to clean it?
We can send them a letter to the effect that they need to make some effort. I think it's under the jurisdiction of this commission. We have some latitude under zoning for blight. I'm not sure what the standards are for that because I don't handle that. But there are some tools in our toolbox. The problem comes from if they don't voluntarily comply with the notice. And this does come up from time to time. We have some noteworthy blight issues going on in town where we've gone into the court system to try and get relief on this, and the courts don't aggressively agree with our position on some of these. And at that point, there's very little we can do except just play the court game. So usually it's a voluntary compliance when they get a notice from us, and it's good for short term. A typical landlord will respond to us, make an effort, and then, we would have to come back to this method again in a couple of years.
If you don't mind, what are your thoughts on its ability to control the water? For instance, in the 100-year storm or whatever.
You mean cleaning it out?
Well, right now, is it eventually going to go into destroy the parking lot? I'm wondering if that's kind of like the hook to try to get these people to.
All right, so going to my last site visit, I think it would be a substantial event like the one that happened down in Oxford a year or two ago, when they had that massive storm that piled up in one spot. Each wave of the storm stalled in one place and did all that damage. You'd have to have something like that happen here. First off, what's going to likely happen under a major flood event is it's going to overflow into the parking lot, not necessarily undermine the parking lot. None of that's going to make it to the level of Mr. Sulo's parking lot because there's a 20-foot grade difference between the two. So basically the Price Chopper parking lot becomes the flood relief. And,
It might be in their best interest.
yeah. But I think for a routine storm, maybe even something up to a 50-year storm, that channel is going to handle it. It will improve if we get all this garbage out of it. I haven't seen all of this that we're talking about. My forays into this, work were not extensive. I wasn't looking to blaze a trail into there. The time I stopped by, it was the middle of full foliage, and I wasn't really, I didn't have tools to cut through and surveyor gear, let's say, that I would usually use if I was surveying to cut line through the jungle. But, be that as it may, if you guys saw stuff in there, and Joe obviously has, or he wouldn't be pulling it out. This is the sort of thing that we could send a letter to the landlord and have them attempt to comply with.
And how does that, how do we begin to address?
Like I said, a letter. We don't have phone numbers for these people. We send them a note, whoever's the owner of record. Some of them, most of them are out of state, like the plaza on the other side of this from where the Fridays used to be. I think that's, ownership is on Long Island. We had an issue with them a year or so ago where the storm drainage was failing. We have another one where other catch basins are failing. So yes, it has collapsed. So I am in communication with them and they're trying to get a contractor. Their problem is when you live and work in Long Island and you own a property in Newington, you don't have a connection to the community where you can call up a local contractor like Joe can and say, in Joe's case, have Cedar Ridge come out and do his work. So it's one of those, we make recommendations to them, talk to this contractor, talk to that contractor. But they don't have that same immediate response that Joe would get from his guys.
What is the formal process for that letter? How does that begin?
Begins with a letter either from myself or Mr. Hinckley, the zoning enforcement officer.
To us?
No, to the owner of the property where the,
How do we get to the point where we ask you to write the letter?
I think you just did.
Thank you. Thank you for your time. Appreciate that.
Thank you.
And there was, at one point, it was discussed, like how, during the construction, like how do we ensure? And I think I had mentioned this, although I have any in front of me here, it's something of the magnitude of this wall. Yes, and I recognize there's, it is a large wall. So there needs to be accounted for as far as the design. So they not only design, right, here's your wall design, that's the end of it. They have to design the entire component. There's an entire procedure they would have to follow in order to install this wall. And as part of that procedure, they have to ensure that they are also anticipating all right, well, it could rain at any time and we have to be able to handle that. So that would have to be part of their design they're not just going to provide and say, here's your wall design, figure it out. It's all right, you need to be able to get this wall installed. Well, we as the contractor also need to know, right, this wall is getting installed, but it's going to rain. So how are we going to get this design to work? So each piece is designed to essentially handle the erosion control for that particular component. Yes, I'm in general showing, the larger, the larger erosion tubes as identified here. But that's that's the highest level. When they make the largest, excavation to install whatever that might be for the detention system or for whatever the system may be, they have to account for all of that so that they are not just letting the water just flow overland into the stream. Now, at the previous, I think it was in the engineer's report, Mr. Zibideo indicated, can we propose a turbidity curtain in the stream? Absolutely. There's we don't have any issue with adding whatever additional protective measures that the commission would be comfortable with to add a belts and suspenders on top of this. But I just want to make sure that the commission is aware that it's not just going to be a free-for-all during construction. That happened previously, there previously, as in multiple years ago, there was not as big of a concern for that. But the state of Connecticut and also the water quality manual, the recent changes have accounted for a lot of the issues that had arisen during construction and have put a much greater focus on. It's not just after you're done, it's also during construction, because that's where the majority of the sediment and everything is contained. So it is not, a company is not going to survive as a wall installing company, for example, without providing the information for that type of erosion control. They can't do it anymore.
Can I just clarify one thing?
Go ahead, Commissioner Bashan.
You said we went from 18 down to 12 for the maximum height of the wall, but at the last meeting, weren't we at, where did I get 30 feet from? Aren't we talking about 30 feet at some point?
There was never 30
No?
foot.
Okay.
The maximum height at the time was 18.
That was the
We were-
maximum
That
at
was
the
the
last
maximum.
meeting.
Yes, that's correct.
I don't know where I got.
It was
the 30 from.
130 feet high. I'm sorry. It's at elevation 130.
Okay.
Commissioner Anderson?
So thank you for going over that. My biggest concern really is the construction of this. I realize, I have worked in civil engineering for more than years than I wanted to get to. And I know the drainage system you're putting in here, I actually think is gonna improve the water quality. You know, you're gonna be getting, especially on that slope side, you're gonna be getting rid of that flow. It's coming down, getting cleaned out and being retained. So I'm actually appreciative of that. Thanks for this, because like I said, it was more the construction that I was worried about.
As part of our design, and well, as part of the construction documents for the project, we have not, you see the erosion sedimentation control plan we have here, but there's a ton of additional note information that goes on as far as all of the requirements associated with following the 2024 erosion control manual and basically, and every contractor has to deal with this in every construction. It's not like, I'm going to get away with this. I don't have to do it this time. It's on every single project. It doesn't go away anymore. And so it's just easier for them just to follow the regulations, because it's, if they don't do it, they're going to be the ones where it's going to rain and they're going to flood out, and then DEP will show up and say, all right, here's your fine. So.
And one more thing, just for the record, the properties I improved in Newington, I don't know if you guys know 80 Fen Road where Montana Nights. If you ever saw that before, where it was the car dealership, it was abandoned, trees all over. I did that. I redid Holly Drive 36, where the supply house is. I bought 25 Holly Drive and 50 Holly Drive, which I'm working on to redevelop. I redeveloped Hoffman Gun Shop I own, and 3310 Berlin Turnpike. I did Payne Road where Frank's Nursery was. So I've improved, dramatically improved what was there in all of these properties and keep them up. So, we're gonna keep up whatever we do here. I can't prevent what comes on to something else, but for what we're gonna do, we're gonna make sure it's right.
Commissioner Paskowitz, do you have your hand up? Chris, is his hand up?
It is not.
Any other comments, questions? All right, motion to table then?
I do want to point out one thing. I'm just reviewing. This is section 8-7D of Connecticut General Statutes about statutory timeframe for approval of an application without a public hearing. We have 65 days for that. So I'd have to check the calendar to see when this was received. But I think before you motion to table, you should ask the applicant if they're willing to grant another 30 days.
Are you willing to grant another 30 days?
The problem is if we don't get started on this, we'll be dealing with customers parking on mud and dirt over the winter. We still got to go through planning and zoning. We need to sort of get this project going, or we're going to be waiting till the spring to do this.
May I ask the committee, you had brought up Commissioner Zelik, you had asked, these projects have been approved with coordination with the Wetland Commission. And is there in particular the major item that you would like to see that we are not providing?
So there were a number of concerns that the commissioners brought up this evening. I think there was the lack of an arborist. My major concern here is there's no environmental impact study. Go ahead. I'm just going to throw it out to the rest of the commissioners. I'm trying to summarize what I think are the major concerns right now. Commissioner Paskowitz, Commissioner Siddell, please weigh in. You guys have had a number of questions here.
When you, just for a point of clarification, when you ask for an environmental impact study, now that's a very specific thing in the civil engineering world. And I don't really think that's what you're asking for. I think you're really asking for something along the lines of a report from either the soil scientist or his landscape architect.
The soil scientist report makes no indication of the impact of the development. So I have nothing from an expert telling me what the impact of the development is on the environment or on the wetlands. This report from the inland wetland scientist simply describes what the wetland is. It doesn't tell me anything about impacts.
So I think you're asking for an expanded soil scientist report on its impact on the wetlands.
Well, this was probably done before the wetland scientists or before these plans were written, developed.
Very
So,
likely.
Right. So I don't have anything in here that tells me from an expert point of view what the impact of this development.
Okay. I just, like I said, a point of clarification, because when you ask for an environmental impact statement, that's typically something that is done for a major highway or a major bridge construction.
We had one done for the apartment complex over on Kiss Lane.
No, that was an environmental report written by our soil scientist and his soil scientist. Trust me, this is an extremely different thing. These studies that I'm thinking of are multiple volumes. They're hundreds of pages. And that's not what we're asking for. I just want these guys to know that.
I mean, yeah, because I need to understand, and again, and I apologize, I don't have the inland wetland regulations in front of me, but I need to understand how to tie this to a requirement, because the difficulty I have as an engineer providing this information is if I'm satisfying the requirements of the inland wetland regulations, I don't know how to anticipate what would be additionally required if the regulations, which are essentially the rule book to follow, are being addressed.
I think we're looking for a function of value report
On the wetland.
And what the change of constructing the wall is going to bring.
A true function value of the wetlands that are not on our property. I'm clear on that.
And what the wall's impact on that.
The wall's impact on that.
You may say that the wetlands are not on your property, the water course is not on your property, but the upland review area is.
Yes.
And the upland review area is a vegetated buffer currently, which helps to protect that wetlands. Now we remove that vegetative buffer. What's the impact?
Does the function values report account for proposed work? I thought it was just strictly associated with what is currently there. I'm trying to anticipate all right, I provide a wetlands values, but it's following the requirement, because that's the functions values is the Army Corps of Engineers requirement, correct?
Right.
Yes. Would you mind I'm just gonna, because he knows what he's talking about.
The highway methodology is used. I often use it when I work on transmission line work, when they are impacting a wetland. And it's pretty much a checkoff list of the values and functions that the wetland offers. And it's just a report stating what the wetland offers to the public.
So could you do a version of that in a pre and post development condition?
I haven't done that type of document. I'm not sure what that document would be called.
Because the difficulty you would have with something like that is and correct me if I'm wrong, the point of the functions and values is, all right, I'm going out and I'm examining it and this is what is actually taking place. There isn't a way to put to speculate all right, this is what's going to happen if we do this. Could this be what would happen if we do this, but this part of the slope fell into the stream and totally screwed up our what could have happened. I'm not trying to push against it. I don't know how to provide something that is factually based. Does that make sense?
Yes, it does to me. I'm trying to find a way for you to answer his
Right.
question.
Right.
Commissioner Paskowitz has got his hand up. Commissioner Paskowitz? You have a
Yes,
question?
I'm here. No, I don't have a question. I'm sorry I left my hand up.
Old hand.
Mr. Chairman, if I may,
Go
so
ahead,
there's two
Commissioner Saul.
things. There's two things that are still front and center. Again, I'd like to know post-construction, what's that upland review area going to be between the wall and the wetland? You know, what is that going to look like? What is your landscape architect propose? What's going to stay? What can be added to minimize the impact to the wetland? You know, what is that impact? What's going to slow the water coming down that slope? Is any mitigation there to stop the water from just running right down into the channel? Is that best? Is there going to be erosion associated with that? Follow? I don't have a clear picture of what that plan would be post-construction and its impact to the wetland, hopefully neutral or minimal. But what's the plan there between, okay, keep your wall where you are. What's going to stop the velocity of the water going into the canal? You know, are we going to have erosion issues? Second, again, I keep harping on the wall. I get it, but it's sort of like the cart before the horse kind of thing for me. It's that what exactly are we talking about? Notionally, okay, how big is this trench? What's that fill going to be to get that level so you can drop a wall onto that platform, if you will, foundation, given the steepness of the slope, as we mentioned before. I mean, you're right to the edge there, and it's a very steep drop off. So we're gonna have to see what type of fill is going to be required. That's going to have to be engineered. And since it's directly impacting the upland review and the soil removal, I think we need to pay some attention to that. Commissioners need to see that in their minds, a vision, what this will look like, what's it going to take to get this accomplished. Thank you.
Question for Commissioner Sedil. Are you asking for sections along the wall?
I'm
Would
looking
that do it?
basic section, a basic cross section, you know, what is it? How big is this trench going to be? What's the fill going to have to be? Where's this fill going to come from? Are we going to need a bulldozer to come up there and level up the soil? You know, now I don't have to give you the whole detailed plan, but at least an outline or a preliminary scope of work. I think that's fair.
6 or 8 sections?
That's fine.
Could you
Even
do
not
6
even
or 8
that.
sections along the wall?
Even 1 or 2, just to give us a notion of what this is going to be, because it's more steady. The lines are consistent when you go around the bend vertically to horizontal. So, you know, what is a notional cross section for this site going to look like? I'll let the applicant decide, but just
I
that's
follow.
what.
I'm trying to understand the benefit it will provide because again, it's one of those, well, we don't have the wall specific design yet, and it could be modified based on, so I have a hard time presenting something that I don't exactly have. Now I understand that sounds bad when you think about it that way, but we have the wall design as a preliminary design. The actual wall itself could modify slightly. Now all right, factually, is it off by, it's not gonna be off by 20 feet, but
You have to have a print.
yes,
The
I can
builder's got to
provide
have a
that.
print to work to, right? They're not going to just go out there. They need a plan in front of them so they can give the engineer, give the architect, what are you looking for?
So the problem here is this is a cart before the horse request. Typically, a full engineered plan for the wall doesn't come until they're ready for a building permit. And as opposed to this level we're at now with the applications to a land use commission.
Usually that is the case, but this is a direct impact to the upland review area. I understand that, but that is soil removal in the upland review area. That's fair game on the Conservation Commission. That has to be planned in advance. Maybe that should have gone first, then come to us with the detail. I think that would have been a smarter way to go, in my opinion.
So if you took your generic detail here and you picked a few spots along the wall to do a section, carried out to the edge of the wetland. I think that would answer Commissioner Sedill's questions.
I see what you're saying. It's potentially possible. It's potentially possible. The issue I'm trying to wrap my head around is number one, the time frame, and number two, the where it's tied to the requirement and the regulations. If I may answer your question with regard to the stormwater, Commissioner Sedill, if I can jump back over to here. Essentially, let me move this out of the way. Right now, as it stands, essentially, this portion of the property runs overland into the stream. When our project is finished, let me go back here. This will be what will run overland into the stream. We are substantially reducing the amount of overland flow that would be running to the stream. As far as the detention associated with every single project that I submit to any commission reduces the peak discharge for every storm 2 through 100 year as a result of the detention system installed below grade here. So as it rains on the site, all of this rain makes its way into the detention system, which holds it during the storm and will slowly release it. It releases it in an outlet. It releases it in an outlet here, but this outlet, so in other words, what this is doing is essentially swap my design with a great big giant forest. That is
I'm not questioning that. You've got this down. I'm Mr. Vaca. I'm not questioning that. But water that's now behind the wall there, which is on a very steep slope. Right now, that is a heavily wooded area with brushes and invasives and everything. But you said that mix is going to basically be a tall grass. Is that going to be enough? Would that be defeated on an aggressive rainstorm? Is there erosion factor there? Is there something there that can, restore whatever's left of that upland review area to refortify that area?
The portion of the wall the portion that would be disturbed adjacent to the wall that is on the outside portion of the wall in that steep area that would be restabilized. And again, I have it identified right now as approximately 5 feet. If it's a bit beyond that, in order to get the installation to function correctly, it will all be restabilized, and anything steeper than a 3-to-1 slope is as part of the 2024 erosion guidelines needs to have some type of erosion blanket on it anyway. So you would put some type of jute matting or erosion blanket, or in worst case scenario, you would put some form of structural slope stabilization. They have some that are essentially biodegradable that basically gets installed in the areas of disturbance in addition to just the regular planting mix, so that as the planting mix grows, you are preventing any of that disturbed soil from essentially washing down into the wetland. And all of these will be incorporated into the pre and post design plans for that. Now, again, I can talk about the design and the stormwater. There's not a lot I can do in regard to the cross sections to show what this potentially could impact be. I mean, I can draw them, but again, I'm not sure how much additional information it can provide. And again, the concern we have as far as the time frame. If I may ask, if I'm understanding, so it would be cross sections of the wall. And
show me, are you saying like post-construction, is the grade going to be just as steep as it is now? Or are you going to fill up that area to stabilize? Is the slope going to be mitigated somewhat to stop the velocity of the water going in? Are you going to treat,
I'm sorry, we're going to match it, whatever is the existing slope now, and it will be anything that's disturbed will be stabilized with something to prevent any of the sediment from just washing down the slope. And then any of this, and the areas beyond that will essentially still remain whatever the existing woods or so on would be at this point.
Andreas, you have to unmute yourself. I don't know how you got muted.
What was the last thing you heard? I didn't touch anything. What was the last thing you heard? So all I want to say is, that show me how post-construction, if the slope is not going to be altered beyond the wall, that's going to stay as steep as it is today. Even all that filling you're going to have to do for that wall, that slope is going to be the same as it is today.
Yes, that's what I'm saying.
Now, with the
Because the wall takes the place of the slope.
Now, how much are we going to have between the edge of the wall and the edge of the wetland? How much is that channel
I'm sorry, how much is that is what?
between where the back of the wall is and the edge of the wetland? How many feet is that to get from the back of the wall to the edge of the canal?
At the narrowest point, it is approximately 12 feet. That is I don't have that identified on this. I have it right here. At the
12 feet.
narrowest point, it's 12.3 feet exactly. But again, that is also, please bear in mind that in the grade is directly correlated to that distance. So in other words, it's not 12 feet at a 8-foot high. It's 12 feet at
Slant.
3 feet.
It's a
You know what I mean?
slant.
So it's
basically a
because it
hypotenuse, if
right.
you will, right? It's a slant. It's a grade.
right.
Well, what can we
saying
do
it's
in
not
that
a
12
slant.
feet? What can we do in that 12-foot zone? And that's where you land. Well, that's going to be a lot of work. You were going to take, how much as it is now? So we're going to shrink it down from how much gradient, 50 feet to 12 feet? What's that delta between, what are we starting with?
But that's what I'm trying to say is that we are not changing the slope of the existing. The reason, so here, if I'm going to draw in the side straight
The
here.
point is that
Right.
the wall is going to encroach further down slope to get your parking spaces, right?
I hate to break in, Commissioner. I'd like to speak to what you're talking about. Chairman Sizell, can I? Chairman,
So hold the mic for 1 second there, Alan. I just want to ask everybody online to please mute your microphones if you're not speaking. All right, go ahead, Alan.
I think we've intersected enough details on this walls and intersection of the hill and the intersection of the intermittent stream between. Hey, Joe, can you come on board? I want to talk to you. The applicant.
Oh, he asked for you.
Yes.
Hi. I have a sincere feeling that you're going to be overseeing this project because you're from my school, old school. And we don't just sit around at home watching TV and listen to drama. I know that with you. I don't know you, but I have that feeling from my age. I don't hope you're not close to my age, but none of matter. Just tell them that you're gonna go along, keeping this project safe from intervention in the wetlands, and communicate with your contractors and the person, Baca, we speaking to. I have heard enough details. I don't think we need any more information. That's my take on it. So good luck with you, Joe, and keep your hand in it. That's all I have to say, all right? Because I
All right,
have
we'll
confidence
do
in
the
you.
best job we can do.
All right, that's all.
We're cooperators. If something has to change.
I know that. I
We're
can
gonna
see
do it
that.
we're not gonna come and fight somebody for this.
No, I know that, and I could see it, I could feel it. You wouldn't be here, sitting here with your people if you weren't with their confidence in working with us and all this. So I think we should close the meeting at some point now, soon, and make a decision whether to move on and make an appointment on this, or go to another hearing. I don't make the decision. Chairman Zelak, you make the decision. That's my take on it. Thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner Paskowitz. Again, folks online, can you please mute your microphones? Chris, do you have any way to mute them?
I have tried and it doesn't apparently work, but they've done it themselves now.
Okay.
I may have inadvertently muted Andreas when I was trying to mute Ellen.
All right, so, is the applicant not wanting to continue this another 30 days?
We would like to go forward and get this thing done for the winter.
Okay.
That's really the goal.
All right, so, Chris, if we close this, do we have to make a decision tonight then? Is that what we're saying?
That's an interesting question. I don't know that the statute is that clear on that.
It's only
Mr.
what,
Chairman,
our
I
second-
don't think we
it's only
even
our second
stated
meeting.
if a public hearing was necessary.
It is our second meeting, but it's a 65-day limit, which means the next meeting would be beyond the 65 days. Regardless of when the actual application came in, we're at that point for that. Let's see what it says here. In the absence of a public hearing within 65 days from the date of receipt of the application or within any extension of any such period as provided in section 8-7D, the applicant may file such application with the Commissioner of Energy. In other words, if we don't act within the 65-day limit, he can appeal to environmental protection. That doesn't help you and it doesn't help us.
I make a motion now?
One second. Folks online, again, does someone have a
That's Alan's
question
microphone.
online?
That's Alan's microphone that's active.
Alan, would you please mute your microphone? All right, Commissioner Lemette, you want to make a comment?
I'd like to make a motion that we accept his plan with the changes that he's made, the way it is, and of course, they'll be flexible enough with this.
The motion's in front of you.
Yes. I'd rather make the motion to allow them to go forward. It is a pre-existing lot. It's always been a lot. This is not some native forest. This is a lot and we're just going to bang it together against another lot and there's a culvert in between. They're going to clean this up and reduce the amount of water going into the culvert, into that drainage ditch, I guess you would call it drainage ditch. And I think that's a better plan than what they're doing, than it exists now. I think they're going to handle it better with your improvements than it is if it just sits there.
Then I'll just make my final comments because it looks like if.
Well, we'll make comments after we make the motion, before we go to vote.
Well, my final comments is, like I said, I think this is just, too much development, too close to the well. So we're going 90 feet, we're encroaching 90 feet into the review area within 10 feet or 12 feet. So say 80 to 90 feet. And it's just too massive of an infrastructure, in my opinion, on an already stressed water course. So that's my opinion. So just so you know, if we do vote tonight, you'll know the reason.
Right, we'll discuss that after we make a motion to go to vote. So,
If I just might add, we're all for you expanding parking, just the plan before me is.
I'm gonna go back to my original comments. Up to the edge of slope, you want to build a parking lot, that's not a problem at all. It's, this becomes very complicated once we start to put in this retaining wall, all this fill, removing all the vegetation from the upland review area. Very invasive project. So that's, from edge of slope, not an issue at all, as far as parking. So I'm in agreement with you as far as I'm not opposed to any kind of parking. That's fine. If we want to formally make the motion.
One other
Yes.
point of order.
Can we make the motion now?
I
wait for
I
Chris.
believe Commissioner Conway is a regular member, not an alternate. She has left the meeting. You need to appoint an alternate to fill her
Okay.
spot.
I am going to seat Commissioner Morris for Commissioner Conway. Do you feel comfortable? You're completely familiar with the application? You've heard everything?
Listening to it all.
All right, very good.
I'm new and I'm learning.
All right.
But to me, the real issue, and I think a couple of you said that, is, the proximity of the wall to the water course, which complicates things. If it were closer in, we probably would have had a motion an hour ago.
So, Commissioner Matt, you want to make the motion then?
Yes, I make a motion to approve the application of conditions. You want me to read this out?
Yes, please.
Anyway, I move to approve application IW 2511.
Make sure your mic is on, read it into the record.
Thanks. Anyway, I move to approve application IW 2511 at 2929 Berlin Turnpike with the 10 standard conditions per section 11-10 of the regulations and any other conditions as the commission may require as properly motioned and approved. Any other conditions the commission may wish to impose should be discussed and added to the 10 standard conditions.
Okay, thank you, Commissioner Matt. Can I get a second on the motion?
Second, Commissioner Pasquich.
Already have a second in the room from Commissioner Anderson. Thank you, Commissioner Paskowitz. All right, then I'll go around for discussion. John, I heard your concerns about, stressing the water course. I'm in agreement. I don't have a problem with parking. I think that's a fine use of the property, but I do have an issue with removing the vegetative buffer. And I do have an issue of not having a soil scientist review this and tell me what the impact is to the wetland. And I don't have any kind of environmental impact report from any type of expert telling me what the impact of this is. I've heard all the engineering aspects of this, and I don't have any issues with the engineering parts of this. But I do have an issue with removing all the trees and a vegetative buffer, disturbing the upland review area to this extent. And again, I'm going to fall back on not having any type of expert review of the impact to the wetlands and water courses.
The town council Zoom is muted.
Yeah, what's the problem here?
Alan, you have to mute yours. You have something on that keeps going over the system.
I don't know what it is. I give up. I'm leaving. Thank you.
There we go.
I think we just lost the council.
Who did we lose?
You think so? I think so too.
I think Alan left.
I think Alan did leave.
When do we like that? When no return here?
Can't hear you.
When we pass.
We're already past the point of no return.
The next
Already made
meeting
the
would be
motion
too late.
to
I mean,
approve this.
we could schedule a special meeting in a week or so, and I think you'd still be
We've
under the
already made the
65.
motion. We're going to stay the course here.
All right.
We have plenty of time. We have plenty of discussion back and forth. All the concerns were listed. Everybody had an opportunity to speak. We're going to continue moving forward. All right. So Alan is offline now? That's my understanding?
Correct.
All right. Do we have an alternate online?
We have Greg and Andreas is a regular member, I believe.
All right. So Andreas, can you hear us?
Yes, I can.
All right. I'm going to seat Greg. Help me with his last name.
Ostrinsky.
Commissioner Ostrinsky to replace Commissioner Paskowitz, who seemed to dropped offline. Commissioner Siddell, any comments before we go to vote?
No, I'm leaning in the negative based on the two comments, answers to my questions. I really can't make that judgment. So at this point, I have nothing else to say. I think I hogged up enough time, but that's where I feel right now. Like,
Okay,
Can-
all right, thank you.
can I say one?
Nope, we're gonna hold the comments. We everybody had an opportunity. What,
I was just
Go
gonna
ahead.
say,
Yeah,
I
one
think
more.
it's important to know when this cut out, so what part is on the minutes and what part is not.
Okay.
So,
so Andreas, up to what point did, you lose audio?
I didn't lose audio. I'm here all along.
Oh, okay, so you heard us the whole
Yeah,
time.
I
You heard
heard
all
you
our,
the whole time. No
the
problem.
Perfect.
recording secretary didn't hear us.
Sue? Sue, are you still
Yes, no,
online?
the audio muted on the town council, on the town council Zoom. So at one point, we lost what Chairman Sadil, I'm sorry, Chairman Zellick said. And I can't tell you when.
All right, I'll just summarize again for the record. I don't have any problem with this property being used for parking. I think that's a good use for it. I do have a problem with going past the edge of slope. That introduces all kinds of new challenges here. There was no opinion from a wetland soil scientist as to the impact of this project. We've not had a wetland soil scientist present during the applicant, the hearing, this application. I don't have any expert opinion on what the impact is to the environment, to the wetlands or the water courses. Section 6 of our regulations protect vegetative buffers in an upland review area. So I can't make a good decision one way or another without an environmental impact analysis from an expert. So I have no expert opinion here. So I'm not in favor of this application as presented. And again, I heard all the engineering pros and cons. I understand all of that perfectly fine. I think the design is fine. I have no issues with that, but I just don't know what the impact is here. And that's also following up to Commissioner Bashant's comments about his concerns about the wetlands and water courses being stressed by further development surrounding those wetlands and water courses. That's pretty much what my comments were before we went on mute. All right, so
Can I just point out one thing?
go ahead.
Again, it
Commissioner
goes back to the time frame. If his motion wasn't recorded, then it didn't happen.
Sue, did you hear the motions?
Yes, I did.
Okay, thank you. So they're recorded. All right, we're gonna take it to a vote. Sue, would you do a roll call vote, please?
Yes, I will.
Hold on. Alan, are you back online?
Yes, I am. Thank you.
While you were offline, I seated Commissioner Ostrinsky in your place.
How do you feel about this?
So I think you missed a lot of the conversation while you were away. So we're gonna have Commissioner Ostrinsky sit in your place.
Well, I oppose that because I was taken offline for some reason, not of my own accord.
Did you hear all of the commissioner's comments?
Well, where did they start and where did they finish in this minutes?
I can't tell you that.
Well, then how can you tell me that I'm not off, that I'm offline? You
Because we
can't tell
saw,
me that.
because our counsel here, our staff told us that you dropped.
Yeah, we can monitor who's on, Alan, and at some point you fell off the Zoom meeting.
I didn't fall off of my own accord. Something dropped my internet.
Well, I'm not trying to assess blame here. I'm just saying you weren't on the Zoom call.
All right, so since you're back, I'm gonna reseat Commissioner Paskowitz. Let's continue with the vote.
Did you hear the motion?
Did you hear the motion, Alan?
Please
When you were
repeat
off-
it.
You want me to repeat?
Go ahead, repeat the motion, please.
The motion to approve the application with conditions. The motion to approve application IW 2511 at 2929 Berlin Turnpike with the 10 standard conditions per section 11.10 of the regulations and any other conditions as the commission may require as properly motioned and approved. Any other conditions the commission may wish to impose should be discussed and added to the 10 standard conditions.
Okay, that motion was read by Commissioner Wammet and it was seconded by Commissioner Anderson. And now we're going to a roll call vote. Sue, would you please take the roll call?
Yes, Commissioner Anderson,
Yes.
Commissioner Bashand,
No.
Commissioner Ellis.
I don't have a vote.
Oh, I'm sorry. Commissioner
not-
Morris.
You're an alternate?
No,
I'm sorry. Commissioner Morris,
Commissioner Morris?
no,
Commissioner Paskowitz,
Yes.
Commissioner Sadil,
No.
Commissioner Wammet,
Yes.
Chairman Zellick.
No. The motion fails with a majority of no, 4 no's and 3 yeses. So the motion fails.
Okay, so we have to go to another motion, the motion to table that.
Yeah, we're done.
Or should we ask them if they want to extend?
No, it's all
They
done.
cannot extend.
Done.
We already asked them during the application process.
Okay, you're right. Yeah, thanks. Sorry.
Okay, moving on. Next item of business. Thank you, guys. Public participation on non-agenda items. Okay, any member of the public wishing to come forward and speak? Seeing none in the room. Anyone online, Chris?
We have no attendees and the usual suspects online for counselors and Susan.
All right, we're gonna go on to communications and reports, agent communications.
Yeah, I don't have a lot for you tonight. I have 2 items. I have let's see. Actually, it's 1 item. I have a complaint from a resident of Coachman Lane regarding a neighbor on Rockledge who erected a fence within the conservation easement. I had my staff visit the site and they can tell me that a fence was erected. And we are researching the restrictions of the conservation easement, but I believe this conservation easement was put in place by this commission at some point when Rockledge was developed. So now this is a question of the devil being in the details. What language is in the conservation easement about what they can and can't do as a homeowner in there? So I'm just bringing it to your attention because it is a resident complaint.
Okay, so you'll.
You don't
follow-
require any action. I'm just notifying you.
This is informational.
Yes.
So we'll look for an update the next meeting on that one.
Yes.
Anything else for agent communications?
Let's see. No, that is all I had for this month.
Town council liaison communications.
we finally get to move. You feel like you're 10 minutes? 10 minutes.
Good evening. One thing that I think is of interest that would be pertinent to the Conservation Commission is that we have received a request, and I'm trying to find all the paperwork here. Regarding the sale of the Budney Road stub, which, and I had to look it up myself. We were provided a map. There's the Berlin Turnpike, Budney Road, and then there's this stub of a road between 2 buildings. And there was a request for purchase, correct, by residents whose businesses are on either side.
This initial, I mean, it's town property, this tiny little piece.
Yeah.
It's between
I'll see if I can't get it up on,
Yeah,
the GIS
that
for
would
you.
be great.
Initially, it was going to be a connector road between Budney and, oh,
Yeah, it's not listed on here.
in any event, it's like this undevelopable, basically, stub that was just gonna be a short connector.
It's a paper road,
It's a paper road,
essentially.
And it's Newington property currently, but the two adjoining businesses or budding businesses want to use that for property. They don't want a cut through, but they just want to use it for parking. So the two business owners have kind of agreed that it would be good for them to purchase that if the town was willing. And then we did question them on the use for it, and it will be for paved for parking.
So what, backing up a bit, because of Rosh Hashanah, the Jewish holidays begin on what would be our next 2nd September council meeting. We will not be having a council meeting then. The next one will be October 14th, and there will be a public hearing prior to the council meeting for anyone who wishes to speak to this. And it's discontinuance of the future street between 36 and 50 Budney Road and the sale of the approximate 0.27 acre property to the adjacent property owners. So we wanted to bring that to your attention, let everyone know. Chris, I don't know if you have anything else that you wanted to add to that could clarify anything that we've just said?
I wish I brought my maps with me, but, so we have surveyed this for the purpose of the sale. And it is roughly a 50-50 split down, you can see my cursor there, down the middle of this paper street. This was originally intended, a little background here, Budney Road, as many of you may know, was acquired by the town and subdivided by the town, which is the reason why we own this street for future development. At some point after this was done, the Lowe's Plaza was developed, and they do not have any interest in acquiring this property, or at least as far as we can determine, because they do not respond to our correspondence. We take that as a no vote. So, pardon me. With that in mind, we've gone ahead and prepared the survey that will be coming out of my office in short order. That will show how this paper street will be divided roughly down the middle, 25 feet each side, more or less. Unless it's a 60-foot right away, but I think it's 50. And it goes to each property owner on either side. Their joint interest in this. Sometimes these go one way or the other, but both of these properties owners are interested in acquiring it. The property owner on the right has actually expanded his parking lot since this image was created. And he's already in that to a little bit. We discovered that during the survey that he's already begun to occupy this space. So with that being said, I think it's in our interest to go ahead and further this sale. I don't know how much of a conservation commission interest it has. There's no wetlands involved, but it is certainly a point of order that we're looking at doing this. These things do come up from time to time. We have other paper streets in town. This one happens to be very clear and easy to deal with legally because we own it in what's called fee simple. We own it outright. A lot of paper streets are implied easements, and that's a problem for us when residents ask us for permission to do work in there, or if we want to do work in there, it's a gray zone as to ownership. So this one's nice and easy that way. I like that. Who's got his hand up? I'm trying to get back to that screen.
At any time, was this ever offered over to like the Open Space Commission? Or was it turning into a conservation or open space value to this property?
It's really too small to benefit from anything like that.
Would it be really a park? Because
It's in the midst of, I think,
Lowe's.
what we could call an industrial park or industrial
Yeah.
area.
Yeah,
Lowe's is
taps
that
into Lowe's.
property to the north,
It's Lowe's.
and they don't need the right of way.
They don't need it, or you said they never responded to
They
you?
never responded.
But was it put there intentionally at one time for that right
It
of
was put there
for
before the
access
Lowe's,
to that property?
prior to the Lowe's Plaza being developed into what it is. That
Not
was,
that we have any say over any of this, right?
you mean this commission?
Yeah.
I don't believe you do, but
What's the dollar amount? I'm just curious.
I can't remember.
I
but-
think
I'm
they're-
looking back at some of the.
the
data
appraisal
that
was
we
in the
were provided.
44,000 range.
44,000 sounds-
And then
So-
there's probably some question as to whether or not there's any legal expenses incurred by them.
And how much area did you say it was? 2
Point two,
acres?
0.27.
How much? Oh,
0.27
Oh, I thought you
acres.
said-
No, no,
Two-
it's.
Yeah, it's small. I see that. I'm looking at it on my. map,
Yeah.
too, so.
There's not really a scenic view from any angle.
Yeah.
It's not needed for emergency access to that plaza or anything like that.
I think the property, here, this is it, property appraisals for the two halves of the parcel, that collectively equal 44,000, almost 45,000.
$45,000?
Okay, guys, let's.
Yeah, about 22
Each.
each,
Yeah.
22.5 each, yeah.
And that'll probably increase their taxes a little bit too, right? So,
It will.
tiny bit, anyway.
Yeah.
Our assessor's already on that.
So we wanted to, we thought that was something important that we wanted to share with you. And then also as part of town manager's report, which again, Chris can probably speak to, that we were told that work on the Garfield Street pedestrian improvements will be starting possibly next week. or-
Imminent.
Imminently, yes.
Since
Which
you
was,
brought it
it
up,
was good news.
it does start with the drainage components first. So the first sign of work will be replacing catch basins and things up and down Garfield Street. So it won't look like it's a pedestrian project until we get to the mill and overlay, but, so we have a couple weeks of replacing catch basins, putting in the hydraulic separator at the bus end of things and that sort of thing. That'll be concurrent with other things like the conduit that will cross under Garfield through the bus parking lot to provide the new lighting and security cameras. That was part of the application that was in front of these guys recently. So all of the underground work comes first, and then the mill and overlay, which is the big noticeable ticket item, is probably only a couple of days of the 4 weeks of the project. The rest being all the little parking lot work.
About the sidewalks.
It's all in there. It's all part of that.
So it's gonna be done this year.
It's gonna be done by end of October.
Really? 1 month.
It's Tilcon. They can do that. They're bringing in something like 5 different crews, one for
Oh, yeah,
drainage, one
Tilcon
for
can do
parking
anything.
lots,
Really.
one for milling, one for
Wow.
overlay.
So that is all. And again, the council won't be meeting again until October 14th.
Just one item of information, not from town council, but TPZ Kits Lane. They did have one public hearing. And another one was scheduled, but for last week, but it was delayed or put off until the next TPZ meeting. So that's still under discussion, the
Did
Kits
they
Lane
get much
development.
turnout?
I think there were like maybe 2 or 3 people there, but there was, several questions and concerns from TPZ.
Gail, may I
Good and
ask you a
involved
question?
meeting.
Gail, may I ask you a question?
No, the councilors and the applicants.
Alan Pasquich.
Yes, Alan?
It went on for several hours.
Yeah.
I
Gail,
think public participation, we only had 3 or 4
Yeah, there weren't that many.
counselors sort of thing. Alan's got his hand up again.
yes, Gail,
Yes,
what is the property that you're speaking to?
the Kits Lane development, that was before this commission for quite some time.
I thought that was approved.
No, it was not.
In this commission, it
It was approved in
Yeah,
this
but
commission,
now-
but now
now
it's
it's to
before TPZ.
Oh, so what are they contesting in detail?
There were still
Go to
some
the meeting and listen.
concerns I think the fire commissioner still has some concerns possibly. I can't quite remember. Do you remember? I can't remember.
So the big items have to do with the width of the road for fire apparatus, the grade along the back of the units that are on the south property line, and the sight line at the driveway
Sight line,
onto
right.
Kitts Lane. We particularly have some issues with that intersection as far as the way it's proposed. In order to meet their sight line requirement, the way they plotted it on their plan, you have to look over your shoulder to be able to accommodate this. That's usually where your headrest and the structural support to the roof is and things like that. So we've made that a point of contention in that application that their sight line isn't valid.
So here's the interest. The land has already been excavated and devastated with piles of rubble and trees. And now it's in a stop position.
I'm not clear on what you're asking.
What am I asking?
It's still, it's a public hearing. It hasn't been denied. It's still active and open.
It'll come to the next TPZ meeting, correct?
Right.
But the land has been cleared. The land has been allowed to be cleared and now we're in court discussion.
Are you talking about Culver Street?
Yes.
Okay, well, this is Kitts Lane.
Oh, that's okay, that's the other place near Stop and Shop.
Right. We're correct.
Yes.
Yes. Yeah, Culver Street, I know, has been cleared already. I've gotten some comments from the public on that.
Culver Street's under construction. They've got the first building framed and roofed.
So back to Kitts Lane near Stop and Shop. That construction hasn't started?
No.
No,
It's
that
in
it has not received approval yet from TPZ. There's another public hearing that'll be at the next TPZ meeting, which is
24th.
24th.
Yeah, well, see, I don't get information from TPC, only from conservation. We don't reciprocate information between each other as an agencies. And I'm concerned about that because we need to cooperate more between departments. And I
It
don't know
is
why
all on
we
our
don't-
website.
Despite the website, we need to be
Okay.
communicating closer than on a website. The website's fine, but how much time you want to spend on a website where you can just talk to persons at meetings and cross communication. That's the best avenue to learn things and communicate and get things done in a cooperative manner.
Well, this concludes our report, so thank you all.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you.
Moving on to pond life.
On life, I have nothing else to report to. I'm
Good.
just
Can I
hoping
get a
that
motion
at
to
some
adjourn,
point-
please?
No, I'm not finished. I
thought you
just
said
said
you had nothing to
report, but I have a comment. You're holding your hand up. Want me to stop?
Do you have anything on pond life? No?
Yes. I
You do.
want to hear more follow-up in the future of whether or not we're going to be dredging the pond or not. And I did in the last minutes read that you, Chris Thibodeau, and the planner met and walked around the pond and you saw algae bloom in the south end. So how did you identify that it was only in the south end of the pond?
How did we identify it?
Yeah, how did you identify it?
Our eyesight.
As a biologist or a town
No,
engineer?
no, just observation. We saw it. I wasn't claiming anything more than that.
And you did not see anything more in the pond other than the south end?
That's correct.
So are you a biologist? How did you identify it? Tell me how you came about it to be an algae bloom.
I'm not a biologist. I simply made an observation.
So how do you know it's an algae bloom?
I truly do not.
But you identified it as such. So what's your credentials for that?
I have no credentials as a biologist. I regret that I mentioned the algae bloom to this commission.
Why do you regret it? It's an identifier to be of significant value.
Clearly, I spoke outside of my expertise. I apologize.
Oh, please, Chris. You know, I feel so sorry for you.
Trust me, right now, so do I.
Anything else, Commissioner Peskowitz?
No, I do not. Thank you.
Very good. Motion to adjourn, please.
I'd like to make a motion to adjourn.
Thank you.
second that.
You can't because you're not seated. So we got a motion from Commissioner Wilmette, second from Commissioner Anderson. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Abstentions. Good night, everyone.
Wow. Okay, so what happens to this now?
It's up to the applicant. You can
Not yet.
reply with your application.
Nobody will.
Yeah, or you can go for an appeal.
Now they're gonna start around. How about what they're gonna do? Up the ball. See, I was thinking that no matter what happens.
That's not what I wanted to do.
Welcome to Zoom. Please press pound, then enter your meeting ID, followed by the pound sign again.